All right. Call the meeting to order, the regular scheduled meeting of the Waterloo Board of Adjustment for Tuesday, October 27th. Is there any additions or corrections to the approval of the October 27th agenda? Seeing or hearing none, I'd ask for a motion for approval.
I move to approve the October 27th, 2020 agenda.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Second item is approval of the September 22nd, 2020 minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? I personally read through and didn't see anything.
Move to accept.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. We have four decision items today. The first is a request by Ronnie L. Varney for a variance to the average lot size to subdivide a lot at 3349 Hammond Avenue into two lots in the R2 1 and 2 family residence district. Staff report.
Yes, this is Heiberger with the staff report. Ronnie L. Varney at 3349 Hammond Avenue is requesting to split a lot into two lots. The easterly lot would be 70 by 105 or 7,350 square feet. The average lot size within the 250 radius of the property requesting a variance is 16,311 square feet, 90% of which is 14,680 square feet. The westerly lot would be 220 by 105 or 23,100 square feet, which does meet the average requirement. The property requesting a lot split at 3349 Hammond Avenue, which is adjacent to Hammond Avenue and Lois Lane intersection. The site is currently zoned R2 1 and 2 family residence district and has been as such since the adoption of the zoning ordinance. The surrounding properties are zoned R2 1 and 2 family residence district, R3 multiple residence district to the north, R4 multiple residence district, and R2 1 and 2 family residence district to the east. R2 1 and 2 family residence district and R4 multiple residence district to the south, and R2 1 and 2 family residence district and R3 multiple residence district to the west. The request would not appear to have a negative impact on the neighborhood, as the three adjoining neighbors to the north all have comparable lot sizes to the new proposed 7,350 square foot lot. The applicant is requesting to split a 3,450 square foot lot into two lots to create a new 7,350 square feet lot that will meet the lot requirement. That lot size be within 90% of the average of all lots within 250 feet of the property to be split. The proposed lot area for square footage will be 7,350, while 90% of the average will be 14,680 square feet. However, it should be noted that there are three lots to the north that are only 9,600 square feet in size, and there are 7 unplatted lots to the west that significantly increase the average lot size for the area. It should be noted that the proposed 7,350 square feet lot meets all other width, length, and size requirements of the R2 1 and 2 family residence district, and there is a variety of lot sizes within the neighborhood. The westerly lot has the existing home at 3349 Hammond Avenue, would have a lot size of 23,100 square feet, which does meet the average life size requirement. The lack of reasonable return, there would not appear to be a lack of reasonable return, as the applicant has an existing home on the lot. Uniqueness, there appears to be uniqueness to the request, as although the average lot size is high, there are many unplatted lots in the area that increase the average, but the lots immediately to the north are comparable in size, as are other lots in the neighborhood. And the area is a mixed neighborhood with multifamily condos located to the east and a school and other non-residential uses to the southwest and south. Public considerations. There would not appear to be a negative impact on the neighborhood. Staff recommends that the request for a variance to the requirement that the lot area to be split be 90% of the average of lots within 250 feet located at 3349 Hammond Avenue in the R2 1 and 2 family residence district be approved for the following reasons. The lot does meet the requirements of the R2 1 and 2 family residence district, And 2, there appears to be uniqueness to the request, as although the average lot size is high, there are many unplatted lots in the area that increases the average lot, but the lots immediately to the north are comparable in size as are other lots in the neighborhood, and that's the staff report.
Okay. Any questions? Staff?
No.
Your request for approval, when you say to be 90% of the average of lots within 250 feet, wouldn't it be better to just say the dimensions? We approve the dimensions of this lot?
Yeah, I mean, we're just pointing out the fact in the zoning ordinance that basically, we look at 250 feet as a requirement in terms of average lot size. The average lot size is around 16,000 square feet, 90% of which would be around 14,000 square feet. We're just kind of stating that because basically the zoning ordinance requires that the average lot size be within that 90%. In this particular case, it's not. It's 7,350 square feet, but that lot does meet all other requirements for the district.
I guess I'm not understanding. You're saying that you want us to approve, you're recommending to approve a lot that meets 90%, but this lot doesn't meet 90%. I'm confused.
Well, okay, 90% is the requirement, and within this neighborhood, there are lots of multiple, various different sizes. In fact, 3 lots to the north are only around 9,000, square feet. This lot's 7,350 square feet. But no,
Well,
it does
I
not meet the
understand.
90% requirement.
What are you asking us to move then? Because I think that's what your question is, right, Brad? Because we're not moving that it is the correct size. Are we moving that it's not the correct size? And if it isn't, what is the specific size so that we can move it with that dimension? Correct, Brad?
Yeah, you're asking us to approve something that's going to be 90%, but it's not going to be 90%.
No, it
So
will
what
not
does
be.
that do?
May I? I'm
You're
Ron
saying
Barney, I
you-
live at 3349 Hammond. And I think where the confusion comes in is to the east of this lot is Shadow Creek Crossing, the 152 condo townhouse unit that was built a few years ago on a private street. And what I'm looking to do is the lot sits there vacant and I get provided basically a dog park for everybody in the Shadow Creek area. And I'm quite frankly tired of mowing it. So what I've had discussions with a couple of contractors are interested in putting up 2 more of the Shadow Creek Crossing type, not a 4-plex, but a 2-plex or a twin home is what they've told me. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, I don't think we have
Well-
any questions regarding what you're trying to accomplish. I think our question is, what are we approving specifically? Because the request, it says staff recommends the request for a variance to the requirement that the area. So are we asking for the variance of the 90% rule?
Yeah, that is correct. We're asking a variance for the average lot size. Essentially,
Okay.
it's less than the average within the area, which was about 16,000. So I mean, it's a smaller lot. I mean, there are lots that are unplatted. There's 7 lots unplatted, and they bring up the average quite a bit.
Yeah,
That's why it's throwing off the lot average. If it was another
we're
part
not-
of town that had regular platted lots, this probably wouldn't be as much of an issue.
Okay, we're not arguing about that. That's not the point. The point is the way it's worded. It's worded that you want us to approve, and it has to be 90% of the average of the lots, is the way it's written.
This is Schrader with staff. Yes, I would recognize the wording under the staff recommendation is worded a little confusing. So you may just want to do it as a variance to the average lot size provision to allow a lot size of X. One other thing has been brought to my attention. I believe the proposed lot size is 70 by 105, which is 7,350 square feet, which does meet the minimum lot size for a single-family home in the duplex, single-family home in the R2 zoning district. But it's my understanding that the applicant, and he can get back up here and address this, is intending to build a 2-unit home, and the minimum lot size in the R2 district is 8,000 square feet. So either the lot size would have to be adjusted, or the board would have to consider additionally granting a variance to the minimum lot size for a twin home in the R2 1 and 2 family residence district.
What would staff think about that if it were two bedroom, if it were two family residence?
Okay, for clarification, I'm not looking to build anything. I'm looking to sell it to a contractor, and that's what a couple of them have mentioned to me, possibly a twin home.
Okay, so could we just ignore, since he's not looking to build anything, can we just ignore that from the variance? And if they want to do that, then they can come back to us separately, and then we can just deal with the 90% now. Is that reasonable?
That's fine.
Okay.
Well, I hate to have it come back next month or 3 months from now to correct for 750 square feet. Wouldn't it be best to get it correct the first time?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of correct. I don't think he's asking for that. I think that's just outside of the bounds of what he's asking for. He's specifically asking if he could separate the lot, and then a separate contractor would come in and ask if they could have a two-family residence or one family. If they have a one-family residence, it doesn't matter. If they have a two-family residence, then they have to come back to us and ask. But I think if we allowed a two-family residence now, he's not asking for that. We're just going to go outside of our bounds.
Yeah, I agree, John. You're right.
This is Schrader with staff. It could also be split if approved as requested. That's providing the minimum. They could exceed that and potentially exceed it in a manner that provided the 8,000 square feet minimum lot size that would allow the duplex without any additional variance work.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we need some help in the wording of the vote here. So unless one of the other four of you can capsulize it in a correct sentence here, maybe.
How about this, Brad? This is Jerry.
Okay.
Staff recommends that the request for a variance to the requirement that the lot area of a lot to be split be 90% of the average of lots within 250 feet.
That's exactly what it's worded.
Yeah. And period. The lot located at 3349 Hammond be split into two lots, one being 7,350 square feet, and the other, help me with that one, 2,100 square feet. Is that right? Because we're trying to do two things here. We're trying to deal with the code, but we're specifically saying that this isn't 90%, but we're allowing a lot to be 7,350 square feet.
Okay.
This is Schrader with staff.
Last part.
This is Schrader with staff. Here would be my recommendation. Staff recommends that the request for a variance to the requirement that the lot area of a lot to be split be less than 90% of the average of lots within 250 feet to allow for a 70-foot by 105-foot, 7,350 square foot lot located at 3349 Hammond Avenue in an R2 1 and 2 family residence district be approved for the following reasons.
Excellent.
Okay, I understand. Somebody want to make that motion then?
I move that the request for a variance to the requirement that the lot area of a lot to be split be less than 90% of the average lots within 250 feet located at 3349 Hammond Avenue in an R2 1 and 2 family residence district be approved for the following reasons. The lot does meet the requirements of an R2 1 and 2 family residence district. There appears to be a uniqueness to the request, as although the average lot size is high, there are many unplatted lots in the area that increases the average, but increases the average size in the comparable area.
John, this is Jerry. I think you missed the point about it being 7,350 feet in here.
And the minimum size of that lot is 7,350 square feet. I'll add that to the motion.
Hold on just a minute. Eric shaking his head yes to what you just read, John. And also there's a gentleman that wishes to address the board, FYI.
I'm sorry, we went too far. We went too fast here. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Can we turn the camera around so we can see who's at the podium, please?
Sorry about
We need to back up here. I
Yeah.
apologize. I got carried away. We need to ask if there's anybody here who would speak in favor of the request. Is that what you're doing, sir?
I'm Adam Varney, Ron Varney's son. Kind of a moving target. I've been trying to help him along with this request. We're a little bit confused by the width requirement to alleviate redundancy with another meeting that would address potentially the square footage for the twin home. It's been brought to our attention that's like 76 or 76.19 feet by 105. I just feel like in the spirit of moving this forward, not having it come back in a couple months like somebody brought up before, can we bring that up in an addendum to this request tonight or to this afternoon? Is that possible?
Eric?
This is Schrader with staff. I'm not sure if he was asking to increase the width of the lot or asking for a variance to be less than 8,000 square feet. But if they're increasing the width of the lot, no additional changes would be needed. You can approve it as proposed, and if they go bigger than that, that's fine. The variance just provides for a minimum. If they're asking to add an additional variance to the lot size of 8,000 square feet to allow a duplex, that would need to be added. There is always that question mark of whether or not, you've provided adequate notice. That particular portion of the variance wasn't listed, although I think it's, there was notice of a variance to split the lot to allow an additional development on that site. So it would probably be fine that you've provided, notice to the public that you're going to be considering a variance for this property. So I think you could add that. I wasn't clear which one they're asking.
I would probably
clarify that.
recommend.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I just was, if it'd be helpful, I would clarify why I brought that up. It's just essentially to have one, if the lot is listed for sale, that it would be, a smooth listing and not be inaccurate to say that a twin home or a duplex could be built on that lot and it would be listed for sale for that reason.
But what are you proposing?
You could just make it a lot bigger.
Because it was brought to the council or this committee for the 70-foot, and that was actually, if it matters tonight, like 76 feet or 76.19 feet by the 105 would.
Yeah, they can approve 70 and you can go 70.
We can go bigger.
You can go wider, yeah.
Just
Yeah,
okay.
you can go bigger, you can go
Okay.
smaller.
Okay, sorry about that. All new to this, so thank you.
Ron,
So-
with that being said, what, I guess our question is not really being a novice at this, what kind of zoning am I looking for to be able to build the same houses that are right there in the neighborhood with it?
I don't think it's a zoning issue. The size just needs to be larger according to staff.
This is Schrader with staff.
Right.
So the property in question zoned R2, 1 and 2 family residence district, which allows either single-family homes or two-family homes. If you're proposing to build anything beyond that, that would be considered multifamily. So then you would either need to rezone the property from R2 to either R3 multiple family or R4 multiple family residence district. I believe the property directly to the east is zoned R4. I don't have that in front of me, but I think it talks about it in the staff report where it talks about the zoning of surrounding properties. I don't know if you'd have enough lot size for more units, though, would be the issue.
I have to ask a question here, and we need to go probably step back. Is there 76 feet, whatever, available? Or is it
It's going to be
from that
questionable
garage?
based- It's going to be questionable based on where the existing garage is. So we've got
So I think,
from the east end of my lot to the back of my garage is 81 feet. I've got a 12-inch overhang on my garage. And then we're gonna need the 3 feet. I'd like to be able to get a mower in there because my intentions, once this is all said and done, is to put a vinyl privacy fence across the back there and make it so they can have their privacy, I can have mine, and still be able to get into my riding mower and mow.
okay. I need to ask a question of the board then. I think we're being premature if we go one step further. We could approve what John Childs had proposed, but if you're asking to go, my personal opinion is if you're asking to go to the larger size or a variance on that for a duplex, that we may be exceeding the notice requirements. So we could either table it, we could vote on what John Childs had started to propose with Jerry's correction, or with Eric's suggestions, and approve that, and then they'd have to come back, or we could table it. Before we do that, I guess I have to ask if there's anybody else in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of the request or has any comments in regards to the request. Seeing or hearing none, then I would also have to ask if there's anybody in the audience wishes to speak against the request. Okay, seeing or hearing none, I guess I'm back to the board members with input from staff.
Well, John's made the motion. We need to
Well,
get a-
technically, no. Technically, no, he's got to restate it because it was out of order.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
That was my fault.
Which means we can discuss it a little bit.
hold on.
Okay.
If I may address you, I would like to have the ability to put the twin home up and at 70 feet. So if that takes tabling the motion for now, I would be in favor of that. I don't want to do a bunch of running around here. By the same token, I don't want to get it zoned for one, put it up for sale, and then have to come back and go through zoning again because the contractor says, hey, that's the only way we're going to get anything done on it. You know, my intention when I started this was not to get into any messing around with a bunch of people, but it seems entirely within the reasonability of all the properties to the east of it. I mean, I go out and I measure them, and they're basically about 40 feet wide. So with a 70-foot lot, you're gonna have plenty of easement on each side if you do a 2-unit. And that was my whole thing here. I apologize for bringing all the confusion because I didn't know what the heck I was looking for.
So you're proposing to table the whole matter today, Mr. Varney?
Yeah, if that's what it takes, I'd like to have it so when you're all said and done, that it goes, I'd like to get, is it R3 or whatever, your R4, whatever we're talking about. The contractors I've talked to are indicating that it'd take a twin home to make the lot worth anything.
A duplex only
Okay.
requires, sure, Eric, can you tell us what the requirement for a duplex lot size is?
Eric Schrader, City Planner. The property is currently zoned R2, 1 and 2 Family Residence District, and in the R2, 1 and 2 Family Residence District, for a 2-unit dwelling, there's a minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 70 feet. So the lot, as proposed, meets the lot width, would be just short of the 8,000 square feet minimum lot size.
How can that be? If it meets the width, which is, you said 70, that's a document we're looking at says 70. How are we coming up short then?
Depth.
Depth?
There's no minimum lot depth, but whatever depth you have will then dictate meeting that lot area.
Well, 105 is the deepest you can go, right? Or no? Which, the depth is figured for east to west or north-south?
North to south.
North to south. Okay.
Well, the depth is based on what he has available, so
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I would agree that with the applicant I think this needs to be tabled. I have to say, I am not happy with the way this was put together. I think that this was poorly written and not fully thought through. So I don't think it was totally the applicant's fault.
Well, Mr. Varney has been gracious enough to say, let's table this and do a little more research on it so that we can get it right when we do make a decision. So I think we follow his lead.
So
Yeah, I would
don't-
agree.
I don't think there requires any action on our part. If he withdraws it, then he can bring it back next month. Is that
Does
correct?
that save his fee? He doesn't have to pay his fee again?
No, I don't think so.
No, he would not. Staff's saying no.
Thank you.
Well, then will you entertain a motion, Mr. Chair?
Do we need a motion?
To table?
We don't need a motion to table?
Eric,
I think he's withdrawn.
if they table, isn't there a waiting period? Can't he just withdraw?
There's no waiting period.
Okay. Okay.
And we don't need a motion for that. Or do we? To err on the side of caution? Say what?
Was it clearly withdrawn?
I believe Mr. Varney stood there and said that he wants to pull it out. Is that correct, Mr. Varney?
If we can't get it the way that I want it today, I have no problem with it being tabled.
Okay.
So, I
Okay.
don't see the reason to jump around on this 2 or 3 different times. So, I've been there 35 years and it's not lit a fire under me that quick yet, so.
Well, I appreciate your patience, Mr. Varney. If we need a motion, then I will move to table.
So
it.
Eric is
I-
saying we can consider it withdrawn
Okay.
without
Great.
without any further action on our part.
Great,
Okay.
so we'll do. Okay. Decision item number 2, request by Barry Lokajak for a special permit and a variance to the parking requirements for a religious facility located at 525 West Fifth Street in the C2 Commercial District. Staff report.
This is Western staff. Excuse me. The request would not appear to have a negative impact on the surrounding area. The proposed request could have a negative impact on the vehicular or pedestrian traffic in the area. The area is served by West Fifth Street, which is a minor arterial, and South Street, which is a local street. US Highway 218 trail located 0.197 miles to the northeast. The Park Avenue bicycle lanes are located 2 blocks to the northwest. There are sidewalks on all streets surrounding the property. The property in question is C2 Commercial District and has been zoned as such since the adoption of the ordinance in 1969. To the north, commercial businesses, zone C2. To the south, residential and professional offices, zone C2 Commercial District and R3 Multiple Residence District. To the east, Commercial District, C2 Commercial District. To the west, religious facilities and former Sacred Heart School, Zone C2 Commercial District. Residences were built between 1886 and 1918. Commercial properties built between 1914 and 1963. And religious facilities were built between 1916 and 1921.
29.
Oh, 29. The future land use map designates this area as commercial. The special permit request would be in conformance with the future land use map and comprehensive plan for this area. The applicant is requesting a special permit to allow for a religious facility and an existing commercial building. They were also originally requesting to allow for an addition on the southeast side of the building, but they have begun to remove the addition, which has significant building code and zoning ordinance issues. The church has apparently been holding church services at the building for 10 years and is buying the building on contract from JDS Homes LLC. However, the site has never been approved for a special permit to allow for the site to be used as a religious facility. The applicants are also requesting a variance to the parking requirements. The facility currently has approximately 100 members and approximately 44,600 square feet of space in their building. Parking requirements for the religious facility is 1 parking space for each 4 persons of maximum occupancy of the sanctuary, auditorium, or main hall. Since the building is made up of largely 1 big room, the occupancy of the building is approximately 306, which means that the parking requirements for the facility is 77. The applicant states that they have a congregation of 100, which would require 25 spaces. Currently, there are only 5 usable parking spaces in front of the building. However, the applicants do have a written agreement with the owner of the adjacent parking lot and storage building to use the parking lot for parking. However, that parking lot only has room for approximately 13 legal parking spaces. In addition, both South Street and West Fifth Street have on-street parking that effectively creates approximately 15 more spaces for members of the facility to park. The applicant indicated that many people walk to the services. However, 2 neighboring landowners stated that the members of the church have parked either in their driveways or blocked their driveways. In addition, they stated that the congregation often park 3 deep in the parking lot, causing cars to be blocked in and creating a fire hazard. Therefore, while the facility will be close to meeting the parking requirements for what they state is the size of their congregation, the parking ordinance is based off the actual occupancy of the building, which means the facility is short more than 50 parking spaces. And technically, the site would be short more than 50 parking spaces. And technically,
71 stalls.
71 stalls, because only the 4 stalls are on their property, and the written agreement along the adjacent parking to be used is not exclusive agreement and could be terminated at any time. The building also has 2 poles on the west side of the property and were formerly used for a pole sign. The zoning ordinance requires that the support structure for abandoned signs be removed within 180 days of the business closing, which has long passed. Therefore, the applicants will either need to move the support structure or install a new sign that would meet all of the requirements for a pole sign in the C2 commercial district. The applicants also had started construction on a new addition in the parking lot attached to the building. There was no building permit issued for the building. The structure did not meet building code and would not meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance due to being on the adjacent lot, not meeting setback requirements and being built over the property line on land not being purchased by the church. When the applicants talked to staff, they described it as a shed. However, when staff was on site, the structure is actually an entryway addition to the main building. Not only does the building not meet building and zoning regulations, but it also takes up 2 parking spaces in the lot. At this time, the applicants have removed the walls of the addition, but the support structure is still there. The applicant will be required to remove the rest of the structure regardless of the outcome of the request. The fire department has concerns about the building, including the need for a sprinkler system and alarm system, and request that an architect examine the building. These issues will need to be addressed by the applicant separately from the special permit request if approved. At their October 6, 2020 meeting, the Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission failed to recommend approval of the special permit, with 2 voting to approve and 7 voting to deny. 2 nearby resident property owners testified against the special permit and noted issues with parking, including members of the church parking in neighbors' driveways and blocking driveway entrances. However, if the Board of Adjustment approves the special permit to allow for a religious facility and the variance to parking requirements for the facility, do so for the following reasons. There appears to be a uniqueness to the request, as the applicants have been using the building as a religious facility for 10 years, with the following conditions: that there be a written agreement between the DWD Investments and the church for parking. Secondly, that the addition be demolished. Thirdly, that the post for the former sign in the parking lot be removed, or a sign that meets the sign regulations for a C2 commercial district be installed. Fourthly, that the applicants hire an architect to make changes to the building to meet the requirements of the fire and building departments. And lastly, that the applicants find additional parking for their congregation and present sign agreements to staff, or remodel the building to lessen the size of the main assembly hall so that the maximum occupancy would be 100 persons, which would equate to a parking requirement of 25, which would be a reasonable variance given the 5 stalls on the site and the 13 adjacent stalls that they have permission to use, in addition to the adjacent on-street parking that is available. Wow,
Okay,
that's a lot.
can't imagine there won't be any questions here. But I'll start. John, that structure is gone now, correct? Completely?
Yes, that's gone.
Yeah, because I drove by it, like it was completely gone. This used to be Granger, right? Granger, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, you say it doesn't meet the fire code, but it was an existing business what doesn't it meet the fire code? Did the fire code change? Or is it because they have possibly more people in the building?
This is Schrader with staff. So the previous use would have been considered retail. Before that, I think it was considered office. As I understand it, I believe it was the Social Security office. Current use as a church is considered assembly. There are significantly different code requirements for assembly than mercantile, retail, or office type uses.
Okay, thank you. I guess there's a lot of churches in this area. Where does the central business district rules stop? Is it at the interstate? Or is it come west farther than to Washington Street? Or maybe I'm asking Eric this or Chris.
This is Schrader with staff. I don't have the zoning map in front of me, but there is the downtown is considered the C3 Central Business District zoning classification. And I know there is no C3 that crosses over the highway. I mean, so there's some areas on the other side of the highway that are not C3 as well, but there's no C3 that crosses the highway.
Okay. Because there are churches downtown that have no parking other than off-street parking. So that would be different because of the central business district
Correct.
zoning,
Within
right?
the C3 zoning district, no, there is no parking requirement, and that is because they are trying to provide for that parking through on-street parking, off-street public parking lots, and parking ramps.
Okay. But go back to my original question. There are quite a few other religious facilities. I've never really examined how their parking is set up, but I know that there's a couple that are almost landlocked. Is this opening up a can of worms in regards to parking for religious facilities in that particular area? As far as the parking goes?
Respond. Somebody respond.
You don't have to.
I don't know that Eric or I have a real good response to that. I mean,
That's fine.
I guess that's up to the commission, the board. If you think it's a
Okay.
can of worms, that's fine. If not, that's fine as well.
Okay.
Brad, you know what we could do? If we approved it with the conditions, then the parking doesn't become an issue. That there's a written agreement with DWD, the building's already, the addition's been demolished, they can remove the signpost, they need to hire an architect, and then the parking takes care of itself.
Well, it still has to be a variance.
Oh, and, well, in the variance, I mean, I was relating to your comment about opening a can of worm about parking for other religious entities. This is the Marshallese, isn't it? Isn't this there? Where they
Yeah, I
have
think
their
so.
Pardon?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah. And I would guess, don't know for a fact, that there might be language and protocol barriers. And they've been there for 10 years. So I guess I'm saying I would be in favor of this with the conditions outlined by staff.
I have a question for staff. Was this brought up simply due to parking issues? Is that why we're even talking about this?
This is Schrader with staff. This was came to the attention of the city of Waterloo because of the construction of the addition with no building permits. That item was flagged as new construction, needing building permits, which it did not have, not meeting code, and then that is what brought the entire use to the awareness of the city, including the fact that there is a church operating from the site that has not received special permit approval as required and does not meet building code requirements or parking requirements.
Okay. So I'm kind of with you, Jerry. But I guess we should ask about people, but I guess, Mr. Fair, you can go ahead if anyone else has any question, I guess. I wonder if anyone's here to speak against or for it.
Sorry, John, I didn't hear the last couple of things you said.
Oh, I'm just wondering if there's anyone in the audience to talk, so I wanted to get
Yeah, is there anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor of the request?
Yeah, the applicant's here. He wishes to speak. You want to turn the camera?
Okay,
here?
can you turn the camera around?
Yep.
Yeah, my name is Walter Clandry. I'm one of the deacon for the church. I'm from the South Pacific, from Marshall Island. When we first purchased the building on contract, they didn't tell us anything about contract, permit or anything like that. And when we bought the building, they told us that the entire parking area was ours. And then when they later sold the building to another, or the garage area, when they sold it to another person, then they told us that that entire parking lot is not ours. So, but with the building, the extension of the building that we built, we took it down when city told us to take it down because we didn't have a permit. So we took it down as soon as possible. What we're trying to do is we try to, there's other parking space around there, around that area. There's some churches that we can go and ask if we can park our car over there, or there's like those parking lot underneath the bridge, underneath the freeway, that we can park our car, and we have a church van that we can shuttle them back to the church. We can do whatever the city wants us to do, but, we are people of God. We came from a small island. We don't know what is what. When they told us that we have a hearing, we're kind of confused. If we have to, have somebody that shows laws and stuff, we have a lawyer that is waiting on hand to guide us. But this is, new to us. Every building that we've rented before, nobody told us what our requirement, or do we have to change it to a different code or anything like that. We just thought we're running a building, use it as church, and we went from 45 to 100 people. And nobody has ever told us anything. And we've been here since 2000. I was here in 2005. My pastor has been here before that. And nobody's ever told us that we need to have certain code changes on a building that we rented. But we've been doing it for a while, for 19 years now.
How many
Oh, so you've
locations?
been doing it legally, so you should be able to do it anyway. And the Board of Adjustment.
Who's speaking?
Yeah, excuse me, who just spoke up? Sir, I do have one question for you, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't put your name. Could you come back to the podium? Is the requirement to cut down the size, to get it down to the 100, to equal the 100 parishioners, is that a burden to you? Are you willing to do that?
It's not a burden to us. It just is, what we were told. The parking space. They told us that that was ours, and then later on they say no. But we made a mistake not knowing that we need a permit to, build an extension to, place. What we did is we just put a small, I'll say shed, so people can come, if it's raining, because we don't have any, what do you call it, like extension of the door, that people will come and not get wet or snow when snow come down. We built that, and my pastor had that idea to build it so we don't, people come in and doesn't have to get wet when it's raining or get snow.
I guess what I'm asking is, the recommendation from the staff is to cut your assembly hall down, the size of your assembly hall down to be equal so you could have 100 members. I don't know what that entails. They're not really giving us specifics, but do you understand that that's a requirement that you're going to have to reduce the size of your assembly hall? You understand that?
Yes,
Has that been
we can talk to each other and see what we have an online streamline, when my pastor do the service, we have an online, Facebook online service that we do. So we can see who can come to the church or we'll talk to each other, but, legal wise, we don't know what's going on. We have a lawyer he told us to come and listen and see what are the requirements, and then we'll go back to him.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I got a couple of questions. Sir, please stay there. How many other locations have you set up services in?
When we first came down here, we used one of the facility over there, Celebration Assembly of God. And then we moved to our own building, it was a small building right next to where the sport complex is at. We had a small brick building over there. We used that.
Okay.
And all those times that we used them, nobody ever told us to change the, whatever they call it.
Okay, and you said that you have purchased the building, or you're in the process of purchasing the building?
We're on contract.
So you're
By
not
contract.
You're not the legal owner of the building?
Well, according to our lawyer, he said that we own the building.
Okay. Is there anybody from JDS Homes LLC present?
I don't think so. I think he sold his property to someone else, New Era Rental.
Okay. So how often do you have services?
Sunday,
Sunday,
Morning.
and that's it?
morning and nights,
But the rest of the week, there's no activity in that building?
and Wednesday. And Thursdays, women use it, but there's only like about 25, 30 of them that goes over there and use it.
So
then-
Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, and Saturday, we have our men service.
And so now we're at Saturday, okay.
And I guess Friday, we use that too of our youth. We try to get them off the street, so we use Friday.
So the building's pretty much occupied and being used 7 days a week?
Yes,
Okay,
not 7 days a week.
5, 6, okay.
I have a question. So your congregation went from about 45 people and now you're at 100,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? And I'm guessing, like most churches, you want to grow the people of your congregation. You want more people at your church.
Yes, we do. That's our main focus, is to reach to other people.
Go ahead. You have more?
No, I'm just thinking that through.
Processing, okay. Mr. Chair?
Yes, I thought you were coming up with another question there.
No, we're processing questions, so go ahead if you've got something.
Well, I can't see your face, so I don't know how you're processing it. Oh no, you don't have to turn it back just for. Now I can. Yeah, now I can tell. I'm really taking on this. I'm very sympathetic to these people. I'm not sure that they understand, if we approve it, all the things that they're going to have to do to make it work. And I don't know if that's should be our concern right now. They're going to have to do something for the fire code. They're going to have to do something to the size of their interior of their building, so they limit the number of people that can be there. Then we're going to have to approve it even with not meeting the full parking requirement. even if they can get an agreement from the next door neighbor to use that parking. And now it sounds like it's not just a 1 day a week event. It could be 4 or 5 days that they need that extra parking.
Can we see if anyone else wants to talk? I have some really pointed things I want to say, but I want to wait until everyone's done talking.
Okay.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, let me express what I'm thinking.
Well,
You know, when we say a religious place, we don't limit how many times they use their facilities for what kind of services and events. So that's one thing. The second thing is the owner, he bought the building, he's under contract, he has a mortgage, that's how I'm reading it, and he has an attorney. And he said that he'll listen and then go back and talk to the attorney about what the different requirements are. And the attorney, of course, will understand the complexities about hiring the architect to reconfigure the internal building space.
If I may, would we be able to just get if there's anyone who wants to speak against it first, so we can really discuss this?
The mayor would like to speak.
All right, Quentin Hart, 715 Mulberry Street. First thing I want to say, I apologize for everyone here for being a little bit late to the game on this. And as you all know, this is probably the first Board of Adjustment meeting, maybe the second that I've gone to in my life, not just about being as mayor. Mr. Winton called me today. I didn't know, unfortunately, this was on the agenda, but I took a look at it, and then, I started to think about, obviously there were some challenges and some barriers that kind of got in the way now. Yes, people should seek that out. They should find out that information. But on the flip side, as mayor and his staff, maybe I should have done something a little bit different to be more accessible so people can understand that when you have a building, you just can't use it for anything you want to. There's some things that you have to do in a process that needs to be taken. So I accept that responsibility. Two, they're at the point now where, it's not those or these. We are community. These are our neighbors. They're family members. They're people that are going to school with our children. So they're every part of this community like everyone else. Number three, we're talking about, they're doing good things on Wednesday night. They're doing good things on Tuesday and all those things. And I would probably assume that if they have 100 members, that on a men's night, that has to be less than 100 unless there's no women that attend. I would probably say if there's 100 members, then when they have youth night, there's less than 100 youth, because I would assume your church isn't, not that you don't look youthful, but that there's youth. So what I'm asking, and as I apologize to this board, if there's a way, instead of making a decision, a tough decision tonight, to take some folks that have been in the same location for about 10 years, if there's any way that the staff recommendations for the changes, because you can always do multiple services, right? You can do a service in the morning, you can do one in the afternoon. They can flex some of those things, but I would just ask that there would be a little bit of grace with regards to trying to find a solution in this situation for folks that have been in 10 years, investing their lives, being an incredible part of this community, to be able to find a way to make this situation work under the circumstance. I know there was listed some residents, and I know my 3 minutes are already almost up, but there were some concerns that were listed about parking from, I think you said, 2 residences. So if there's an opportunity to show some a little bit of grace in this situation, so our neighbors and could continue with recommendations from all of you and some more communication. I would just hope, and I know we can't say pray during this meeting, but pray that we would be able to find some common ground so that they can continue. So like I said, my apologies, Board of Adjustment, for springing this on you, but I didn't pay attention and it came up, so thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hart. I'm speaking for myself and hopefully several of the board members. I think that we're trying everything we can do to get this to work out. I'm just concerned that if we vote through, we're voting something through that they may not be able to be aware that they're even being told they have to do. I'm very much wanting to get this worked out for them. And I'm speaking on my behalf, not for the board, just, and each member can express their own feelings. But I think they're in an unfortunate circumstance. Language and culture could be a reason here that it's caused some problems, but I think we want to make sure that it works out for them as best as it can, and to be safe for their community. So, you know, they meet fire codes, things like that, but try to work it out.
Mr. Chair, are you gonna, is there anybody else that wants to speak on this?
Okay, is there anybody in the audience? We can't see the audience, so. Is there anybody there? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Walter Klanner again. Just want to say, when we use the building on Sunday, the church, that's when 100 member comes. That's what, because that's our main church service. They were saying something about us blocking the neighbors. One of the building, a residential building right next to our church is an apartment. We bought the other, apartment. We're renting that one out. So we should have a space for that apartment. But we let the next door neighbor use it sometime. We've never complained about them coming and take our parking space. We don't complain about things. And it's not about parking. We're trying to figure out what we need to do to have our service, because that's our main focus. And I really do appreciate you guys listening to us. I hope, we come to a conclusion. And if we need to seek legal advice, we will do that and then come back. But that's what, we're trying to see if we can get a variance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anybody there that wishes to speak against the request?
Doesn't appear so.
Okay. So I'll turn it back to the board then. Is there?
Yes.
What do the board members want to do here?
Okay, so I'd like to speak. I've been waiting because I want to let everyone who spoke against or for have a chance. This is a circumstance that I think the Board of Adjustment was created for. We have to remember that we are a part of the city, and the city's objective is to aid people to live in the best life that they can. This organization is providing a meaningful, positive experience in an area in which that is greatly needed. Moreover, the vast majority of their issues seem to have come from misinformation that they received from people that sold them the building. And this is something that we've talked about in the past with landlords and issues. And that's something that's going on in the city right now that we're looking to look at and figure out what's going on with people selling and not telling the businesses what they need to do. This place has been in use for 10 years. And the only reason why it was brought to our attention was due to a thing in the past that was promptly taken down after it was told, they were told. These conditions are things that we are suggested to do, not things that we have to do. So I personally am not only for this, but if we say no to this, then they leave their buildings that they've been in for 10 years, that they've been doing they've been adding a positive experience to our Waterloo citizens, making this a better, more diverse area. And it's exactly what we're looking to do in the city. And we are here to create variances that will allow people to live in a way that is positive. And I think this is something that is a glowing example of why we should have a variance. Number 5 says that the applicant find additional parking for their congregation and present signed agreements to the staff, or remodel the building to lessen the sign. So essentially, if they can find that additional parking, if they can have an agreement with maybe churches besides them or other businesses, which it sounds like they're willing to do, then they wouldn't need to remodel anything on the interior of their building. We've approved things in the past for parking. I just may not be in the exact same circumstances. This is a positive in this community, and I would hate to see us lose a positive because of issues that they were not told about. I guess that's my statement. I am fully supportive of this, and I am to make the motion. I'm going to really highlight that or remodel is. I might even take it out on this, and if you disagree with that motion, you might disagree.
John, what about the other requirements that are listed there, 1 through 4?
So number 2 is already completed.
Correct.
So that wouldn't need to be present. Removing the corner sign in the parking lot or a sign that meets the sign regulation for C2 commercial district. That's something that I would want to ask about with staff. Is there I guess that's something they would have to talk about with the lawyer, or we can figure out here if that's something we want to impose. I do think it's important for them to have proper signage. Does that signage need to be expensive or anything in that manner? I think it just needs to follow the rules. The written agreement between DWD Investments and the church, I'm a little confused on why that has to be present. And that's something maybe staff could explain to me a little bit more. And then to hire the architect to make changes to the building and make requirements. Isn't that something we could just have an inspector go in and do? Have a city inspector? Do they need to hire an architect, or can we just have a city inspector go in and say this is what's not up to code?
This is Schrader with staff. I can't speak on behalf of the building inspections department, but as I understand it, as part of the building code requirement, when you create a new assembly, and that could be new construction of a building that's going to be used as assembly, or an existing building, that you're changing the use classification from something other to assembly, that as part of that, it does require architect stamp plans. So that is normally something that any new assembly use requires. Again, that's my understanding of it. I'm in the planning department, not the building inspections department, but that's my understanding of the building code requirement.
Okay.
John and Eric, are you referring then to number 4? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So do they need to get these issues cleaned up before we grant them the variance, or how does this work?
This is Schrader with staff. It's a special permit with a variance to parking. And no, they would not have to be cleaned up as long as those issues are covered under the conditions. And staff would be okay with the elimination of number 1 in that condition list as well, because it's covered by number 5. Number 5 talks about obtaining the agreements for parking or remodel the building to get down to that number. So agreements could include that particular one in question that number 1 is referring to, or other ones. So I think it would be fine to eliminate number 1. Number 2 has apparently already been addressed, so that leaves 3, 4, and 5.
But hold on. So can they continue to have services there until these 3, 4, and 5 are taken care of, or do they have to stop? What?
So if the board were to approve the special permit and the parking variance subject to those conditions 3, 4, and 5, As far as zoning is concerned, they could continue to operate that. I can't speak on behalf of building or fire, if they can continue to use it while they address their issues or not.
So what's the best course of action for these people? To meet with and talk with whom?
Yeah, I would suggest that, yeah, they're going to want to meet with building and fire representatives. The building inspections department does facilitate meetings where they set up to pull in all of the various departments to review projects, so they could call the building inspections office and request to set up one of those meetings.
Thank you.
John Childs.
Yes.
If you talk about number 5, I don't think you can eliminate the or unless you're willing to say that all they have to do is get the agreement from that DWD Investments. Because to get even to 25, they got to remodel, they got to lessen the size of their assembly hall to get to 25.
Unless we waive the requirement like we have done for other places.
So are you saying you would want to make your motion without number 5 at all?
I haven't decided that yet. I'm still thinking if that's wise. I don't want to cloud my judgment. Because the parking issues are the secondary reason that we're here. And I don't know.
So are you saying just to grant them their special permit?
I want the safety issues resolved, and I'd like the sign resolved. The parking issue, there are churches, as you stated, with 0 parking, and they haven't had any issues with that. And I don't. It sounds like those. I don't know. I don't. What I would like to do, if I made the motion exactly how I wanted, yes, I would remove 5. The more I think about it, I would remove 5. I would have 3 and 4. I don't know. What does the rest of the board think?
Well, does anybody else, any other board member have a comment? If not, John, why don't you make a motion?
Well, this is Jerry. I'd want to say that we really want to protect them with the variance for the parking requirement.
Yes.
For future, because they could be cited again or whatever happens. And what I see happening is they meet with the building specialist people, they bring their architect, and they figure out what's needed. Because we're all making these suppositions here, trying to work around a very unfortunate situation that apparently they weren't told all that they should know when they entered into a purchase agreement.
Yeah. The way
John Childs, I guess I'm going to go back. I'm not trying to pick on you. I just wanted to say, would you say that you would approve it with only 5 stalls?
Yeah.
And the not mutually exclusive agreement for the other 13?
The 13 site? Yes, I would.
Your motion would be that?
Yes.
Okay. Even if they didn't remodel the building down to get to that lower level?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to clarify. Frankly, I agree.
Mr. Chair, this is April.
Yeah.
So I feel like we have the cart before the horse here a little bit. We have building requirements and fire requirements that need to be met with the conditions that's been brought to us. And if we approve this and they haven't met those conditions, can they operate their church there right now legally? I feel
Well,
like
that's
we
not under our-
should, I feel like we should just tap the brakes here a little bit and get these folks educated with the things that they need, the tools that they need, the people that we need to get them on the right path
And keep them in their building.
and to keep them in their building. And I feel like limiting them to 100 people in their church is out of line. You know, churches need to grow, especially, in my opinion, in this time. We've had, with COVID going on, churches are struggling.
So maybe what I'm hearing is we maybe table this
I
until
think we
they
need to
get
table
their-
this until we can get these people educated on what needs to happen with their church, and city staff can meet with them as far as what requirements they need for fire and building, and I'm guessing they had no idea that the signposts in their parking lot needed to be removed, and, you know, the shed that they built for the entryway is not allowed.
I'd be more comfortable with that.
If I may, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think we're saying the same thing. Removing 5 removes that whole 100 people thing, period. So I would get rid of that. I don't think that is necessary. So they would not need to limit the size of their congregation. I agree with what you're saying. We do need to get them to the right people. However, what I strongly believe is if they need this, regardless if we do it later or if we do it now, they still will need this approval because this is zoning. What you're referring to is fire and buildings. They are completely different entities from zoning. So we could do this now, and then this is taken care of, and they don't have to pay the fee again or deal with this again. Then the zoning aspect is done. Or we can let them go through all that stuff, and then they have to come back later and do the same thing. I think it's redundant. I think from the zoning perspective, we can get this taken care of from here, and then they can go on to the next step, which is dealing with fire and dealing with buildings. But we won't have anything to do with that. We can't affect that outcome. We can only affect zoning. Well, so I think we agree. I just want to get it done now, so they at least have this taken care of.
Okay, I would probably agree with John.
I agree with John.
We're not going to be able to address, we can't make any decisions on 4. We can't waive that. We can't, we're just telling them that they're going to have to go and get fire approval and building department approval. That's just something they'd have to do. Whether or not they take down the sign poles, that's pretty minor. They could probably do that on a Sunday with their congregation and somebody that knows how to take down with a welding torch. I agree with John on 5 because they're never going to get to an acceptable level. And I also agree with April on that we don't want to limit them to 100 people. If they could get, if they go to 200, they're probably going to have to buy another building. But we don't certainly want to be the one making that decision for them. So I'm kind of in the position that I would like to settle this today with a special permit and let them go ahead with the parking that they have. And I think that is showing very favorable response on behalf of the city of Waterloo to these people that have come to our community in good faith.
And have been operating for 10 years or more.
Correct.
Yes, with no issue.
So with that, I'm going to close the discussion because we need to move on. I'm going to entertain somebody to make a motion.
I move bear with me, that we approve the special permit to allow for a religious facility and a variance to the parking requirement for the facility with the following conditions, that the post for the former sign in the parking lot be removed, or a sign that meets the sign regulations for a C2 commercial district be installed. And number 2, that the applicant hire an architect to make the changes to the building to meet requirements for the fire and building departments. The facility has taken care of previous issues such as the addition that needed to be demolished, reducing the negative impact. The facility has a positive impact on the neighboring community due to its nature. There were 2 neighboring property owners that noted parking issues with the facility. I think that's it. No, kind of. Oh, there appears to be a uniqueness in the request as the applicant has been using the building for 10 years as a religious facility.
I second it.
And the only thing that I might add is that we have no power over this, but that we highly encourage the city of Waterloo to allow them to continue with their operation, pending approval of the architectural designs.
And I would approve that addendum.
I'm sorry?
I would approve that addendum.
I don't think it has any force, but
The recommendation.
we have a second on the amendment then?
Yes, Jerry
Second.
did.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Sir, you have your approval, but you're a long ways from finishing this. I just hopefully he understands that.
He's nodding yes.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. I apologize to everybody that's on the call that's waiting for the next 2 items. I think I'm sorry it's taken so long. Request by the city of Waterloo for a special permit for expansion of the 5 Sullivan Brothers Convention Center located at 200 West 4th Street in the C3 Central Business District. Staff report.
Okay, the proposed request will not appear to have a negative impact on vehicular or pedestrian traffic in the area, as it is an expansion of the existing convention center on its existing footprint. There are sidewalks surrounding the site. The site is zoned C3. The expansion of the building will add 5,901 square feet to the existing 49,233 square feet footprint of the building, which works out to be 11.9% increase in total footprint. In addition to the increased square footage, the building will be extensively updated, creating a more modern look and update the facilities within the complex. The existing convention center facilities that were constructed in 1975 are life expired and in need of renovation. In addition to the exterior of the building reflects the architectural style of the time and is outdated compared to comparable facilities in the area. At their October 6, 2020 meeting, the Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission voted unanimously 9-0 to recommend approval of the request. Therefore, staff will recommend approval of the request by the city of Waterloo for a special permit for the expansion of the 5 Sullivan Brothers Convention Center located at 200 West 4th Street in the C3 Central Business District for the following reasons. The request is in an area zone C3 Central Business District. Number two, the proposal would not appear to have a negative impact on the neighborhood or traffic conditions in the area. The surrounding area is composed of compatible businesses. Number four, the expansion and remodel of the 5 Sullivan Brothers Convention Center will complement the recent remodel of the hotel and historic properties that have been revitalized by GSA Development across the street from the facility. And lastly, it'll be a catalyst for future development in the area.
Okay. Any comments or questions of staff?
Looks good.
Is there anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor of the request?
Not appear to be.
Okay. Does anybody in the wish to speak against the request?
Does not appear to be.
Okay, so with that, if there's no questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
Before you do that, I'm going to err on the side of caution and recuse myself from this vote because I sit on the board of Experience Waterloo, which has been a driving force to get this building remodeled. So I think it would probably be inappropriate for me to vote on this matter.
Okay. So somebody else want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I move that we approve the request by the City of Waterloo for a special permit for expansion of the 5 Sullivan Brothers Convention Center located at 200 West 4th Street in the C3 Central Business District for the following reasons. The request is in an area zone C3 Central Business District. 2, the proposal will not appear to have a negative impact on the neighborhood or traffic conditions. 3, the surrounding area is composed of compatible businesses. And 4, the expansion and remodel of the 5 Sullivan Brothers Convention Center will complement the recent remodel of the hotel and the historic properties that have been revitalized by JSA Development across the street from the facility. 5, will be a catalyst for future development in the area. Yes.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, our last request by Mid-America Energy for a special, for a special permit for construction of a solar farm located east and north of 3050 Burton Avenue in the A1 Agricultural District. Staff report.
Yeah, this is Heinberg with the staff report. The ground-mounted single-access photovoltaic solar electricity generating system will be located adjacent to an existing substation at the northeast corner of West Airline Highway and Burton Avenue. The dimensions for the 3 megawatt solar array are 900 by 1,115 feet, except for the 365 by 365 southwest corner, which is the substation. The ground-mounted single-axis photovoltaic solar electricity generating system will have a total wattage of 3,921 kilowatt DC. The DC current produced by the array needs to be inverted into AC electricity, which will tie directly into the power grid. The inverters on the project will invert the DC current to AC electricity, producing 3,000 kilowatts AC. The electricity produced by the project would be placed on the local electric distribution system and used by the residents of Waterloo. The majority of the surrounding area properties are zoned agricultural to the north and east and industrial commercial to the south and west. The request won't appear to have a negative impact on the area. Perimeter fence will be placed on all sides of the facility. They'll be comprised of a 6-foot-high chain link fence and 3 strands of barbed wire for a total height of 8 feet. The surrounding area has historically been utilized for a mix of agricultural, commercial, industrial, and residential uses. Proposed site of the solar array is currently vacant farm ground. As part of the application, a perimeter fence will be placed on all sides of the facility that will be comprised of 6-foot-high chain link fence, 3 strands of barbed wire for a total of 8 feet. The applicant also plans to plant 4 Val Albert blue spruce trees, 5 Sunkist arborvitae along the north-south property line. In addition, 18 Fat Albert blue spruce trees and 17 Sunkist arborvitae will be planted along the west property line. This will help screen adjacent residential uses. No drainage problems or concerns are known for the site area. The proposed solar array project would not appear to have a negative impact on drainage. The solar area has a very small footprint, and the vast majority of the site will remain grass. The project will not be constructed within a special flood hazard area as determined by FEMA. The comprehensive plan and future land use map designate this area as low-density residential. Solar array is conformance with the future land use map and is allowed in any zoning district. The site is located within a primary growth area as designated within the comprehensive plan. The City of Waterloo zoning ordinance requires large-scale utility collection systems to go through the special permit process. Application will go before the Planning and Program Commission for recommendation and later before Board of Adjustment for the final vote. The 3 megawatts ground-mounted single-access photovoltaic solar electricity system meets all the requirements of the zoning ordinance and no variances are required. Areas disturbed by construction activities will be replaced by utilizing Pseudus Type 1 lawn seed mix. The proposed array will be 9 feet in high and a perimeter fence will be placed on all sides of the facility. That will be comprised of 6-foot-high chain link fence with 3 strands of barbed wire fence for a height of 8 feet. Trees will be placed on the west and south property lines. The solar array is anticipated to negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood. Project also meets all setback and height requirements. Solar collection systems are permitted in all districts. Should be noted that this green energy project will produce enough electricity to be able to power up to 620 average Iowa homes annually. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the special permit at the regular meeting on October 6, 2020. Property owners south of the solar site on West Airline Highway had concerns regarding the project, such as distance the solar arrays from their homes, potential for electromagnetic radiation, environmental health concerns, the size of proposed trees and growth rate, the decommissioning of the site when the solar array is no longer active. Mid-American Energy and City of Waterloo staff worked on addressing these concerns. Staff reached out to Blackhawk County Health Department, who noted they are not experts regarding solar arrays and could not comment on the project. Val Albert blue spruce grow at a rate of approximately 6 to 10 inches per year with a maximum height of 15 feet and a spread of 10 feet. Sunkist arborvitae growth at a rate of 6 to 10 inches per year with a maximum of 10 feet and spread of 5 feet. The applicant noted they are willing to plant taller trees. The distance from the homes on the south side of the West Airline Highway to the solar arrays is approximately 320 feet, and the decommissioning of the site has been added as a condition for project approval. Building inspections noted that their national safety code does not apply to the project because it falls under Mid-American Energy's jurisdiction, with them being a public utility as the electric provider for the City of Waterloo. Mid-American Energy also provide information to 2 neighbor property owners that addressed electromagnetic field from solar arrays, questions and concerns regarding ground-mounted prophylactic systems, top 5 large-scale solar myths, and information concerning the environmental review of solar farms in the southeast U.S. This information addressed all questions raised by neighboring property owners at the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting on October 6th. Therefore, staff recommends the request by Mid-American Energy for a special permit to allow for the construction of 3 megawatt ground-mounted single-axis photovoltaic solar electricity generating system within the A1 agricultural district located north and east of 3050 be approved for the following reasons. Request will not appear to have a negative impact on neighborhood or traffic conditions in the area. The request is in conformance with the future land use map and comprehensive plan. This green energy product will produce enough electricity to be able to power up to 620 average Iowa homes annually and subject to following conditions. that the solar array project meets all applicable city codes, regulations, including but not limited to parking, landscaping, traffic plan, screening, drainage, etc. That trees are planted on the west and south property lines as shown on the site plan. The applicant will be responsible for decommissioning the site and removing all solar panels and their opportunities and ensuring the site is returned back to a natural state, seated completely vacant ground once the project is completed and the solar arrays are removed.
Okay. Any questions of staff?
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
There was a letter from Mr. Ott to one of the neighbors, and it talked about that they've changed their, agreement that they will plant 6 to 7 foot trees versus the 3 feet that they originally said. So that's got to be stated for sure in the staff recommendation. And the other thing I'm really concerned about is the applicant will be responsible for decommissioning, and it'll be part of the agreement. So what's the backup? What's the security that the city of Waterloo would have that they indeed will pay to have the solar farm decommissioned? So we need it codified as to how they're going to remove it, to make sure they have the money when it happens.
Okay. Maybe we should ask the applicant on that one.
Yeah, we need a guarantee.
Let's, is there any other questions first? Okay. Is there anybody there that would speak in favor of the request? And if so, can you turn the camera towards them?
Good evening. My name is Matt Ott. I'm a project developer, Mid-American Energy. With me this evening, I have some colleagues. Adam Jablonski, Director of Resource Development. Kyle Specketer, he is the project engineer for this project. And then Katie Lord, she works with economic development for the Waterloo area as well as other areas throughout Iowa. She helps bring new businesses, attract new businesses to the area from a Mid-American perspective. And then I'll have Adam speak after I'm done, just on the decommissioning comment or concern. But I just want to give you an overview of our project, a little more insight, go over some of the concerns that have been raised that I feel we've addressed or looked into, and then we're happy to answer any questions now or as questions or concerns may come up this evening. With that said, just wanted to state, we've been a long leader in renewable energy. In 2019, over 60% of our energy provided to our Iowa customers came from renewable sources. So it's something that we take pride in, and our eventual goal is to do 100%. So that's what we're always looking for. We're always looking for new renewable generation, which is kind of what led us to Waterloo. We looked throughout our service territory to find suitable solar sites, such as the one in Waterloo. As was said, this project is a 3 megawatt solar project, and we estimate that we could power up to 620 average Iowa homes. It connects directly into the local distribution system. And what that means is the power that gets generated stays here. It's used by the Waterloo residents. And then if it is approved, we anticipate starting construction sometime spring of next year, weather permitting, and then construction takes about 5 months. So by fall of next year, if approved, the project would be starting to generate energy. Our project uses crystalline silicone photovoltaic solar modules in a single axis tracking system, which means the modules will rotate throughout the day to follow the sun and increase energy production. So, for example, the board approved a solar project for the county at their last meeting. That was a fixed tilt, which means it doesn't move. It's angled to the south at a fixed angle. Ours are going to be angled to the east to start with, and then as the day goes on, they start rotating to the west as it basically follows the sun. So it's not pointed south, it's not affixed, it rotates on a single axis. The maximum height of the panels as they're tilted is about 9 feet. To put that in perspective, the Iowa Corn Growers Association estimates during the midsummer, corn gets about 8 feet. You know, it can be 5 to 12 feet, but around 8 feet in Iowa, just to give you kind of an approximation of height. One of the considerations we made when looking for sites to develop in Waterloo was making sure the electrical distribution system can handle the energy we're putting out onto it. Unfortunately, it's not something you can just put anywhere you want. The farther you get from a substation, the tougher it is to site a project like this, which is kind of how we landed at the property adjacent to our existing substation. We felt it was a good fit for the area, given the mixed use, which includes agricultural, commercial, and industrial, as was mentioned a moment ago, and we're able to keep a good distance away from homes. The project's passive, which means, you know, we don't produce any discernible noise. There's no odor, there's no you know, gases or anything like that that is given off by the project. We don't have any on-site personnel. It's not actively managed. You know, a few times a year, it'll have to be maintained, mowing, potentially washing the panels, or troubleshooting if there are issues. So we really don't have any traffic outside of the initial construction, so we don't bring any additional traffic to the area. With that said, we do realize, we realized early on that there are some residential use in the area, and there may be some apprehension about a new project, especially solar, because it is somewhat new in Iowa, especially kind of a utility scale. So a couple of the things that we did voluntarily is, prior to the planning and zoning meeting, we sent out a letter to all the people that were going to get that same notification and said, you know, if you have any questions or concerns about the project, contact myself. I'm happy to address, meet, you know, whatever is needed. I got one call that I'm aware of, and that was from a gentleman to the east that was interested in having solar on his property. Unfortunately, he's has it in CRP right now, so it's not something that we can do at this time, but I told him I'd take his name and call him if it's something, you know, we're interested in the future. But really, you know, we're really just looking at this one site in Waterloo right now. The other thing we did is voluntarily added a vegetation buffer, as was mentioned, along the south and west sides of the project. And, you know, the city staff has recommended that, you know, we do that as a part of a condition. So, you know, it's something that we realized early on, so we're happy to do that. Just kind of go back at the October 6th Planning and Zoning meeting where the project was recommended for approval by that commission. Two gentlemen, and I apologize if I don't say this correctly, Mr. Corio and Mr. Ford both expressed some concerns or apprehensions about the project. And we tried to answer them at that meeting. Afterwards, I called them directly to kind of answer any questions or concerns, and also sent a letter with some more information, supporting documentation, kind of hopefully you know, address any concerns that they had. Just to kind of go over some of the issues that were brought up by the gentleman. Some of them were related to health concerns. You know, solar modules are found throughout the United States and the world. You know, both kind of like our project that we're proposing, and also on top of homes or next to homes. So they're not new. Just last year, the 2 millionth solar installation was installed in the U.S. Just to kind of give you an idea of how widespread use there is in the U.S. The modules that we're using, the technology that we're using, that was first started development in the 1950s. Just kind of give you an idea how long this technology has been around. Obviously, it's progressed throughout the years to be more efficient from when it first started, but we feel that they're very safe. They don't have any toxic components. They're largely made up of silicone, the second most abundant element on Earth. Aluminum, copper, and then that's encapsulated in a plastic, and then sometimes like a tempered glass, and then an aluminum frame. So there's no gases or chemicals that can be leached or off-gassed through these. There's really no concerns from a toxic standpoint. We estimate that at the end of its useful life, which we're estimating is about 30 years, if we can't or don't want to repower, which would mean, replacing the panels with new panels, and the city staff has recommended this as a condition that we would be responsible for removing all the components and then returning back the property back to agricultural use or another use at that time. There was a concern raised regarding EMF. I think it's important to note that EMF is all around us, whether that's natural sources or man-made sources. So it's around us every day. There was a study done recently from Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, which studied 3 different utility scale sites were about similar size to ours. And what that study found was the EMF readings at the fence lines of those projects were extremely low, 0.2 to 0.4 milligauss. The International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection has recommended a level of 833 milligauss, so we're way below that. We actually stopped out at CFU's solar project in Cedar Falls before we came up here to do a reading there. It was right at 0.2 milligauss, so right where their study had concluded it would be. Our Cedar Falls project was right in that range as well. So way below any concerns. We're actually, the study that was created, I think we sent this, but we tried to give a representation of EMF found in everyday household appliances throughout the U.S. I don't know. And basically what we found is our solar project measured at the fence line is about 1,000 times less than what a washing machine or a microwave or some other common household appliances would be. So again, EMF is all around us. The solar project creates even less than what's around our everyday household appliances. Glare was another concern that was raised. Again, I think it's important to point out that the sole job of the panels or the modules is to convert solar energy into electricity. So they are designed not to reflect it. They put anti-reflection coating on them. The Department of Energy, their National Resource Renewable Energy Laboratory estimates about 2% of sunlight is reflected. So it's, about that of soil, which is, found at this site throughout most of the year when crops aren't in. So there really isn't a concern for glare. We did a glare analysis for the airport. We actually submitted for determinations with the FAA. We got those determinations back that our project is no impact to air traffic in the area. So, and what you'll see solar projects throughout the U.S. on airports. Denver International has a couple solar projects on their property. So glare really shouldn't be a concern, I guess. Property values were something that was brought up. We're not aware of any studies that show negative impacts to property values. I did reach out to TJ Kingsfield, the county assessor, to see if there was any impacts to the assessed values of the properties around CFU's solar project. He said there was none. And our research would support that, or really there is a lack of it because there's not that much. The one study I saw from Texas, they asked assessors, if residential assessed values were impacted, and overwhelmingly it was negative, it was not negative. There was either a neutral or a slight positive impact to values next to a solar project. And then lastly, kind of what was raised was there was concern regarding the tree height that our consultant had proposed to install initially, which was 3 feet. We understand that, that doesn't provide a lot of initial screening, so we have voluntarily agreed to install 6 to 7 foot tall trees. And that is in the most recent site plan, landscaping plan that we provided to the city. So that's really all I had. We feel this project is very similar to the county solar project that the board approved last month. We believe it's a good fit for the area and would provide a benefit to the residents of Waterloo. This will play a large part in our ability to provide 100% of renewable energy to our Iowa customers, and we're very excited about the opportunity to build in Waterloo. So I do appreciate the board's time and consideration this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I'm sorry, Chairman. Adam Jablonski, I think he's going to address the concern or question regarding decommissioning, if that's okay with you.
That'd be fine.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Adam Jablonski, Director for Mid-American. Trying to address the concern that was raised regarding decommissioning of the project. I think this is a fairly small project for us. We're used to building very large wind projects and generating facilities. We're used to decommissioning concerns that come along with those. I think the one main concern that the city would have, and it is a condition, and we're fine with that. We would do it regardless if it was a condition or not, is to remove that facility. So we're happy to accept that condition to the approval. But security, I think the one thing that the city would be concerned about is if the company who's building it, owning it, and operating it has a financial wherewithal to remove it at its end of life. Mid-American has the financial wherewithal currently. I think something that we can offer is, upon the city's request, we can prove we have that financial wherewithal, really at any time that you ask. So we do have the financial wherewithal to remove it at the end of life, and we're happy to prove that over time.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Is there anybody in the audience we have several people online with us. Okay, if there's someone there, go ahead. Gives us your name and go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Katie Lord. I'm a Business and Community Development Manager for Mid-American Energy. Matt referenced me earlier. I'd like to read 2 letters of support from the business community for this project. They were here this evening but had to drop off of the Zoom option. And then also your packet for this evening included a letter of support from CPM Holdings. So I'll go ahead and read these 2 letters. This first one is from Chris Faraday from PDCM Insurance. He says, board members, for decades, Mid-American Energy has been investing in renewable energy, mostly wind, in order to deliver more clean energy to communities like Waterloo. Clean, renewable energy is good for Iowa, for the environment, for our residents, and for businesses. It is simply what consumers demand, not only for themselves, but for those with whom they do business. That's why companies like ours are proud to be customers of Mid-American and the recipients of the renewable energy they produce at no additional cost. Through the Green Advantage program, Mid-American delivered more than half of the energy to its Iowa customers used in 2019 from renewable sources. Adding projects like the proposed solar farm at West Airline Highway and Burton Avenue will help them deliver on their 100% renewable energy vision and helps businesses like ours meet our sustainability goals that our customers hold us to as well. Mid-American is a longstanding partner with Waterloo and the greater Cedar Valley region and an important leader and partner in our community. They deliver reliable energy, which is important for our homes and businesses. Our energy costs are some of the lowest in the nation, and as mentioned, the reliable and affordable energy we get is increasingly renewable. We stand in support of projects like the Waterloo Solar Farm that keep us moving in the direction of a more sustainable community. Sincerely, Chris. And one other one that we received as well in support is from Grow Cedar Valley, which is the region's economic development organization. This is from Carrie Dara, the CEO. It reads, Grow Cedar Valley supports the project proposed by Mid-American and appreciates your consideration for a special permit for its construction. Many of the existing businesses in the Cedar Valley are looking for opportunities to expand their green footprint, and this project allows that collaboration with a utility partner without having to make the significant individual investment of their own. As we know, Mid-American is a leader in renewable energy, and if approved, this project will help achieve the future goal of providing 100% renewable energy to all of Iowa's customers. Grow Cedar Valley received a call this morning from Power Up Iowa, a statewide bipartisan nonprofit organization, asking for our endorsement. And as you can see, we already recognize how important this project is to the Cedar Valley and are glad to provide our support. Thank you again for your consideration. This is from Grow Cedar Valley. And lastly, I would just like to continue to reiterate that this investment does help us towards our 100% renewable energy vision. This is not only a business attraction tool that we use, and we go and meet with site selectors and companies not only from the United States but globally, in working to attract them here into Iowa and to our service territory. But this is also a value add for our existing customers and helps them meet their own internal corporate sustainability goals that now consumers are really holding companies to. We're at a unique point tonight where we hope Waterloo could be one of our first communities that we partner with for solar in helping us to get to that 100% renewable energy vision. Again, thank you for your time this evening. I appreciate it and appreciate your consideration of our request.
Okay, thank you.
Can I speak?
Anybody else?
Yeah, can I? Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. My name is Kamyar and Cheyenne. I'm an engineer. I work here. I'm a public servant working here at University of Northern Iowa, where we are very active in helping our communities transition to renewable energy. And obviously, utilities and cities all over the country are moving away from reliance on fossil energy and investing in solar and renewable, and that's a wonderful thing. And this facility makes no sound, no engine, no emissions, and we think that this is a great thing that is happening in our county. That's just here to say that that kind of fits in with all the other goals of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak against the request?
I would like to speak for the request.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
My name is Pat Call. Yeah, my name is Pat Call, resident of Waterloo. I'm a registered nurse in town, and I just think this is a great project. I love seeing something like this come to Waterloo. I admire the similar project that was done over in Cedar Falls. So for all the reasons that have been elaborated, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Again, is there anybody in the audience who would speak against the request? I'm not seeing the audience, so I don't know.
I'm on my way, sir. My apologies to you.
Okay.
My name is Matthew Spaldino. I'm 3652 Burton Avenue. I'm just north of the proposed site. We were one of the homes that were neglected by Mid-America Energy for notification of this project. Now, I appreciate Mid-America's Energy desire to look at renewable resources. I don't think anybody here is going to argue with you about solar panels and that removal from fossil fuels moving into a renewable resource. The issue or the questions that we have or the concerns that we have is the site location. Now, in Mid-America's own discussion of site management, there's plenty of land that isn't adjacent residential homes around the airport, just down Airline Highway. I feel that they've picked this site solely for the convenience of having their station, their substation, there on the corner. Now, so we said we're talking about 400 panels now. Again, in Mid-America's own discussion, there's already individuals that are looking for expansion opportunities. So from my perspective, and from some of the others that you'll hear tonight, we have to live right next to it. And right now it's a 400 panel. And a few of my neighbors will be looking directly at it as they get their morning paper. I will be looking at it every time I look out my southern window. We recently built our home we just finished about a year ago. And there was a great deal of concern by this committee in zoning and planning of intrusion of homes, and they weren't going to allow other people to build homes, housing developments, and things of that nature in this area in preservation of farmland. Now we have a project that seems to go against that general theme or that general concern of city zoning and planning. Now, again, I'm not against the panels themselves, and they bring up a lot of great points. But if it's simply a matter of convenience of their substation, I would like to see the studies done for putting them adjacent to the airport. There is several suitable sites there. There's one just south of the airport, still within the commercial, agricultural, and residential zoning that's along Airline Highway. So my largest concern again would be what type of financial commitment are they going to have for this demilling? Now, while they say that they're solvent now, is it a deposit they're going to put down? Is it going to be, are we going to put a restriction that the site can't be sold to third party? There's a lot of things that happen in 30 years, and many of you may be still sitting on this council. I will definitely be in my home in 30 years. So I'd like to have these types of things and some of the other things that you'll hear resonate in your mind. Again, I'm not against renewable energy. I'm not against Mid-America. It's simply the site location that would negatively impact the neighborhood there for being unsightly, expansion, 6-foot trees, because you can't have 12-foot trees because you'll start to shade your solar panels. So these are the types of things, and your general commitment to holding agricultural ground as agricultural. So that's all I have for now, but again, there's quite a few of my neighbors that would be here, and again, they say they've notified everyone. They did not notify me, which is why I wasn't here on the 6th or any other preceding meetings of today. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
This is Schrader with staff. I just wanted to respond to 2 issues brought up there regarding the notification. The city of Waterloo mails notice to property owners within 250 feet of the project boundary area. The previous speaker's property is approximately a half mile to the north of the site, as I understand it, so it's well beyond the 250 foot. The other comment was regarding a statement of zoning, planning and zoning departments, policies or goals. I'm not quite sure what he was talking about there, of preserving farm ground. That is not a policy in the zoning ordinance or the policies of the planning and zoning. The discussion on not wanting to see additional residential development in this area is for non-compliance with industrial uses in the area. Residential and industrial are generally not compatible. There's a lot of existing industrial uses in this area, and a lot of the vacant ground is identified as future industrial growth. So we wouldn't want to encourage new residential growth in this area. It is not shown on the future land use maps as any sort of residential area in that, to the north of the site.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Brian Adams. I live at 730 West Airline Highway, which is directly east of the location they're trying to do. And I was not notified of this at all in any way, shape, or form. And I am directly within 250 feet of this property. And as they said, they're going to put trees up on the south and the west side. Well, what about my house? I look out my window, I'll see it look like Fort Knox. Barbed wire fence, chain link fence with barbed wire across top. Because now, if I ever try to sell my house, ain't nobody going to want to buy it. Looking into a prison yard, basically what it's going to look like. There's nothing on my side. How's it going to affect the animals? I got cattle out back. How's it going to affect them? Has anybody done a study on that? Has anybody done a 25, 30-year study to figure out any effects? The effects on the wildlife. I got deer running through my property. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Is there someone coming?
Yes,
Okay.
I am, sir. I am coming. My name is Mary Heatley. I live at 3151 Burton Avenue. I was notified on, in a letter that was dated September 22nd by the City of Waterloo and September 23rd by Mid-America Energy. They didn't look like important kind of pieces of paper. I would have thought that something of this import would have been sent by certified mail, because you're looking at directly impacting my property. When I look out my deck, I see a beautiful cornfield, wonderful sunsets, great moon at night, and now I'm going to be looking out and seeing a 6-foot, although your literature that Mid-America sent us said that it was going to be a 7-foot fence with 1 foot of barbed wire, and the solar panels extend 9 feet into the air. So the solar panels would go a foot beyond the barbed wire fence. It's going to look like Fort Madison as I'm looking out over this. One of my biggest questions is, when was this project started? What date was this project started? Because I just bought my home 4 years ago, and I never heard one word about this project coming up. I never heard one word about the fact that I was living in an industrial area, although I do realize that there's a factory on the corner. But in my area, on my side of Burton, there's lots of homes. There's one collision center, and there's a tree removal service. That's it that's on my side. And I look at this and realize that I'm going to have to look out at this, and it is going to devalue my property. In fact, it has. Just the word getting out. I can't think of any other reason why my property value dropped $40,000 in less than 2 years. It's evident to me that this project has been going on for a lot longer than what we were told. And if Mid-America, who I, gladly receive service from, I just want you to know that every month I pay my bill, okay? And I'm definitely in favor of solar energy or any kind of green energy that's going to save our community from the fossil fuels. But what about the landfill? Nobody's living out there. There's tons of land out there. I talked to Bill Buss, asked him what he knew about this solar energy project. He didn't know what I was talking about. He's like, I have no idea. I said, well, why aren't they putting it out where you guys are? Because this would make a whole lot more sense. One of the reasons I bought where I did was because it's quiet. I see 30 to 40 patients a day. I am talking to people all the time. At night, I want to be quiet. I want to have quiet. I don't want to come home and look like I'm living in a prison area. When Mid-America is talking about 3 to 4 times a year, they're going to have somebody come out and mow, I can guarantee you, during the summer, if I don't mow twice a week, I'm in deep trouble, because that grass grows very fast. And the increased risk of fire to any of those panels that get so hot is going to increase the risk of fire. Now, every literature that I read and research that I did said that there's specific training that has to go on with firefighters and first responders for a solar panel fire, different than any other kind of fire that we would have in the area. And I know there was talk just this week on the news about talking about the funding of the firefighters. I'm betting dollars to donuts that there's nobody talking about what additional training is going to be needed for solar energy. And that's poor planning, because that doesn't give the firefighters adequate information about what they need to look forward to in the coming time. These panels are new. The Canadian solar panels, and I don't know which number because there are at least 6 of the ones that were listed on their site. We don't know how they're going to perform. We assume the same way that the others have. But the solar industry is only 20 years old. Long-term studies of safety and other components that we are concerned about haven't been tested. We don't have the research for it because they haven't been around long enough to have in a residential area. And that's my concern. It's not the panels. I am totally in favor of those. It's the location. And I mean, seriously, you want to put it there? Buy me out. I mean, because I'm not going to want to look at that. I've got almost an acre of land. and it's going to be worthless to me. I'm 65 years old. I didn't buy this property 4 years ago to sink it down the tube. As it is, the city services are not available to us out there. Most of the people on West Airline Highway are on well water. I happen to have city water, but no sewer, nor will they put sewer in. I don't have any tiling. I don't have any, what are those things? Tunnels that go under the road so that the water flows freely. Yeah, I don't have any of the culverts. I don't have any culverts. And when my land gets wet in the spring, I have water halfway up to my house because the road isn't graded. Somehow or another, Grover Court at the corner of my property is not considered city land. Pick up garbage. Mr. Plum down the street is the one who has to do the snow blowing on that street because we don't get anybody in there to plow that snow. So we've got sort of half in and half out of the city. I bought my land in the city, and I feel I'm entitled to all of those services. And we are not getting them. And I was told that we will not ever get sewer services there. Something I didn't know when I bought the house. So when I look at this proposition, I have no problem with solar energy. I think it's great, but I want to know when it was discussed. Because I want to know why I wasn't told, why somebody didn't even, I don't know, knock on my door and say, hey, we're talking about doing this. What do you think? When there's only those few houses that we're talking about, that would have made sense to me. That would be good business. Not sneaking around and trying to get this done in 2 meetings so that we don't know anything about it if we didn't happen to get together and talk about it. I think that's shoddy work. If I'm talking to a patient about a surgical procedure, I'm talking to them about what's going to happen and how it's going to be performed and what's going to happen after it. And I anticipate that they would be quite unhappy if they didn't get that information up front, because I want to guarantee those results. I want my results guaranteed. I do not want to sit on a property that I can't get rid of in 10 years when I'm looking at I'm done working, because nobody wants to look at the eyesore across the street. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else there?
Hi, I'm Katie Smaldino. I live with him at 3652 Burton Avenue, where we just built our house. I guess one of my main concerns is property value. I think I read the Texas study that he did, and it basically takes houses in a 2-mile radius and a 10-mile radius and say it's not really affected because they can't find houses that are close enough to actually do studies with, because it's not suggested you put them right next to houses. So do they have any guarantee of what's gonna happen if my property value does go down? Let's see. What if they want to expand in the future? Do I need to worry about that coming either closer to my house or even taking away some of our property? And then what happens to the land when the panels are done? They say they're gonna reseed it, but is this just paving the way for more industrialization in the area instead of agriculture? The EPA suggests that we don't have these on sites that can be used for land for other things like agriculture. They should be put on landfills, or one of those things they did with the old Maytag plant was to put the solar farms there. So have other ideas even been investigated, or is it just that it's really close to this main power conduit? And then it needs some more clarification too. Like, can they sell the panels to a third party? If that does happen, who's gonna decommission them? How is it gonna be decommissioned? Are they just gonna go into a landfill, or are they gonna actually be recycled properly? There's lead and cadmium inside of these, and if they break, that'll go into the ground, which is why they don't want them in a landfill, but it is very costly to recycle these. And then if they do break while they're there, like if a bird flies into it and it breaks, because there are a lot of geese in the area, and they're big enough if they run into it, they're gonna break it. If they're only out there 2 times a year, how are they gonna notice that these panels are broken? And it lets the like rainwater will wash the lead and cadmium into the ground, and then we're all on well water out there. So it just goes into the ground and then we're drinking it. Are they gonna have some sort of groundwater well to monitor? And what happens if it does go up, like the pollution in it, and it becomes unsafe for us to drink? Are they gonna bring out city water to us? Then landscaping, the trees are only on 2 sides, not all 4, so we'll be the north side that doesn't get any trees. And there's been some changes into like how tall the trees are and how fast the trees grow. They say it's like 6 inches every year or 6 to 10 inches every year. Well, we just planted trees when we moved out there, and we planted them actually before we built our houses to try to do a windrow, and they're spruce trees. And we planted them in the spring of 2016, and they're about this big now. So I don't think it's a realistic timeline on how fast these trees are gonna grow. And how often are they gonna maintain it if they're only out there every 2 years or 2 times a year? And then how are they gonna manage the drainage issues? They say there aren't drainage issues, but you can even see in the pictures that there's like a little waterway that comes through the area, and the ditches all get flooded. So where is that gonna water go to? And if they're in charge of that, what are they gonna do to keep it from going into other people's properties? And then has a study on the environment been done? There are a lot of birds in that area, and they do fly into solar panels. It's a concern of the Fish and Wildlife Service. We have, let's see, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service say that loss, degradation, and fragmentation of habitat should be considered when installing solar panels. They also recommend to decrease the number of birds that fly into it, to do things like sniffer dogs, video cameras, daily surveys, and then putting designs on the panels to help show that they're not water, that the birds that they doesn't water, and they don't try to land. And they suggest no operation during migration periods. They also did a study that found it was 3 sites in California, which are larger than what's proposed here if they're all together, and 233 birds in 1 year crashed into these things. We have a ton of birds out there. We have swans. We have bald eagles, cormorants. This is a picture of the geese when they're migrating, and I know it's probably hard to see it. There's all of these little black dots are all geese. We also have sandhill cranes out there by our house, and I know they go into the agricultural rows to eat food sometimes. They don't nest there, but they are a protected species in Iowa, so has anything been considered about them? And that is about all I have right now. Does anybody want a closer look at the pictures? Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Someone else coming.
Okay.
My name is Chris Drowdy, and I live at 843 West Airline Highway, which is, looking out my front window, this solar farm is exactly right in the middle of my view. I am looking at the notes that you guys gave us earlier, and I made some notes on those. One of the things is about this fence. My understanding is that it's just a chain link fence with 2 feet, or with, let's see, I saw it on here, 3 strands of barbed wire. for a total height then of 8 feet. Where our house is, we still will be looking down on that. So even the trees and stuff that are planted in front, which I'm not sure if that's designed, you know, to make it look prettier or to kind of prevent you from having to look at the solar panels. But that bothers me, especially with the barbed wire and the chain link fence. Just as a correction to where there's a sentence here about the proposed site of the solar array is currently vacant farmland. That is not true. We've lived there for 20 years, and it's been farmed every year. If it's not corn, it's soybeans. So that is productive ground. It's not vacant. We are a little concerned about the drainage. We have well water, and there is, I know someone was out to cut some trees down in front of a culvert that runs under the highway in front of our house. And so I don't know if, you know, that drainage is going to be an issue or not with the panels being up there and the surfaces that those are mounted on. But I am a little concerned that the drainage that goes through the ditches will be interrupted somehow. Let's see, I had another thing. So under the, on page, I guess it's page 3 of 5, it talks about planting lawn seed mix and stuff. So we're talking about an area of 20 acres, you know, which is a lot of lawn to not only seed, but to maintain. And I know we've talked already about, you know, if that grass gets high enough, and let's say we have a dry summer, and the heat, the solar panels, you know, produce heat as well, that what if we do start? What if a fire does start in the grasses that are going to be out in that field? I guess there is a question that I have in terms of, it says that there's 650 average Iowa homes that will be able to be powered up. So what's the financial impact for the community? I mean, is our utility bills for electricity going to go down then, so that it'll make it a lot better for everybody? With the regard to the decommissioning of the panels, some concern is, you know, that I know that it's tempered glass, and so when it's crushed, which is one of the steps in decommissioning them, what happens to the stuff that's on the inside? If there's, you know, does the thing, you know, the products, and, you know, there's silicone in there, and I'm not sure about the cadmium, but that, and the lead, but those are all very toxic chemicals that, you know, is there care taken so that that doesn't go into the ground and then get into the water at that point? You know, as far as the trees, like Katie said, their trees are growing fairly slow, and it's the same kind of trees that that they're going to plant. So if a solar farm lasts for, let's say, 25 years, it's still, even with 6-foot trees, then it's still going to take several years for those trees to mature to the point where it either, you know, blocks off the chain link fencing, or, and I don't, like we said, if the trees get too tall, then it casts shadows on the panels, and then you lose some of the benefit of the solar stuff. Let's see. Trying to think what else I jotted down on this. So, you know, the health aspect in terms of the chemistry of the panels. you know, there is something about doing a leaching procedure test to, which tests for potential for crushed panels in the landfill to leach hazardous substance into groundwater. These things that are inside of the solar panels are still toxic, so it's, there really does need to be a lot of care in terms of how they decommission them and, you know, which you guys had brought up too. So I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gary Lake. I live at 921 West Airline Highway. I got a question on this. Is it currently vacant farm ground? There's a whole crop of corn in it right now. Somebody's profiting off it. That's vacant? Okay. Did Mid-America buy this property yet? Okay. Trees. We're gonna get, they said they'd agree to 6 to 7 foot trees, right? Radiation. I got a letter here from, it's from the Yukon, or UK. As a news reporter, talked to Tim Dobson from Switch 2 Renewables, solar company, and he claims the network cannot rely on renewable energy that goes up and down. It has claimed that between 4 and 7 o'clock, when they really need capacity, they rely on other sources. So if the majority portion of the solar energy is lost in the transport and is not reliable during peak times, this raises the question on why so many governments are spending taxpayer money supporting grants and giving money to solar developers. Keep in mind, it is the developer gets the money from the government, then many times they will sell a solar farm to another company, and many times that will be a company from China. So, since no business can sustain operation at a financial loss for an extended period of time, someone needs to find out why these farms are being built. They will not last for an extended period of time. If it costs more to build them than they are worth, and who is really profiting from having them? And having solar energy really not more important than having food. You know, if you're putting these solar panels on our croplands and you keep building them, what are we gonna eat? We're gonna get our food from China? I want to talk on the bond. Is Mid-America putting up a bond in case of an incident? No? Where is that? Anybody know who Heiberger is?
That's me, sir.
Thank you. I got your statement right here. You recommend what, 2 million, 1 million, 1 million and 2 million. Is that correct? Heiberg initially suggests Blackhawk County Institute liability insurance requirements.
Yeah, that's for Blackhawk County, sir. That's not.
This is Blackhawk County.
This is city limits of Waterloo. Blackhawk County is the unincorporated areas. That's where the zoning ordinance for Blackhawk County comes in.
I'm lost.
Okay, this is going into the city of Waterloo. Blackhawk County, I'm the zoning administrator for. It's for unincorporated Blackhawk County. None of the incorporated communities. This is completely separate zoning ordinance that I'm referring to.
Incorporated areas shouldn't have a bond?
I mean, I don't know, that's something that could be discussed or.
The unincorporated have it. Shouldn't the incorporated have it?
The solar ordinance has not been adopted yet by Blackhawk County. It's still being written.
So they can throw this up there with no liability.
I mean, the Board of Adjustment could make it a requirement to require bonding and as part of the motion.
We don't know
they
if
so
that's gonna
choose.
happen or not, right?
Okay, we're gonna have somebody from Mid-American address that question.
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I can address that. It was brought up earlier and brought up now. We'll voluntarily put up some kind of financial security acceptable to the city to cover the decommissioning of the project. We have insurance to cover incidents.
I'm sorry. Hey, excuse me. We can't have people from the audience speaking up because we cannot hear. I don't know what the question was. So please do not speak unless you're at the mic.
So I think I covered the decommissioning issue. That can be a condition. We'll put up financial security for that. There was a question about kind of liability. That's what insurance is used for. And, you know, Mid-American has insurance. And in some cases, we have the financial wherewithal where the state doesn't require us to have insurance, so we self-insure. But we can provide proof of insurance if that's what the city would like, liability insurance. That's right. Yeah, we're a public utility regulated by the state of Iowa. So we're heavily regulated within the state.
All right, thank you.
The big question, who's profiting from this? The state's gonna give them 13% tax breaks. Federal government's gonna give them 30%. I don't know what the city of Waterloo is doing for them. I'm sure they're giving them something to put this in. So in all, they're gonna get better than half of this paid for by us, the taxpayers. And it costs 3.2 cents to create 1 kilowatt using coal. You know how much it costs to create 1 kilowatt using solar panels? 20 cents, 1 kilowatt. They're not gonna make any money at this. In 16 years, they're gonna sell it. I guarantee they're gonna sell it. And then you're gonna have somebody come in and buy it, like China or whoever, and they'll just run it in the ground and then they're gonna disappear. And you're gonna get stuck holding the saddle. This is not, it's not right. That's what a lot of them do. They send a lot of these panels that are used up, they send them over to third world countries. And they throw them in their dump. Iowa does not have a facility to get rid of these panels. I think there's like only one in the United States. And they take them over there, they throw them in their dump. People go in there, break into them to get the chemicals out of them in the material, and they die because it's deadly stuff. But, they got to feed their families. It's okay for us to get green energy and send our junk to somebody else so they can reap the benefits of the worst case scenarios, right? It's cute, funny. So everybody's been informed on emergency procedures on what happens if there is an incident? Does anybody know? No? So even though we don't want this solar farm in front of our yards, in our front yards, that can cause health conditions, chance of pollution, underground water, EMF radiation, we even get to pay for it. Ain't we lucky? I would like to have them put 3 rows of trees in. If you only put 2 in, there's gonna be a gap in between them. Because I don't wanna see it. And the way it sounds, it's already been cut and dried, so it's, we're just up here talking to ourselves. But, 3 rows of trees would probably be better than 2. And the taller the better, because I can look out my front window and see Katie's house. And that's what, half a mile? That's probably closer to a mile from my house. But, it's not efficient. It's not reliable. It's just not, I don't know why everybody's spending all their money on this green energy yet. I mean, there's 300 times more green gas when they make these things. That's where the green, what do you call it? Greenhouse gas. That's where it's all created, is when they're making these things, because they got to heat that silicon, whatever it is they put in there. They got to heat that up to such a high degree to get it inside. They got to melt it, and that's where your green gases come from, and it's horrendous. And a lot of these solar panels come from China. I don't know where these are coming from, but a lot of them come from China because they don't have no regulations over there. They can do whatever they want. So, you know, that's all I got. Thanks.
Okay.
Yes, I'm Diana Corio. I live next to Gary at 861 West Airline Highway. And I too would be looking out across this in a prison farm, basically. That's how I'm going to describe it. But at that point too, we have to realize we have lots of migratory birds. We have turkeys, we have deer, raccoon, you name it. We've had everything going to the back of our yards to the south of us because there was a quarry back there. So that would be a watering spot for all the wild animals that come across there. Another question I asked Mr. Ott on the phone when I talked to him was, what happens? We have high winds back there in the area they're proposing to use for this solar array. And inevitably, trees are down. I think 2 or 3 years ago, all the poles, power lines on Burton went like dominoes down because of high winds, ice, and snow. Now, my concern was, what if I'm in my bedroom and one of those things come through with a straight wind like a derecho or hurricane, or excuse me, tornadoes? What if it blows one of them off into my bedroom, decapitates me in my sleep? Who's responsible? His comment to me was, well, I would assume Mid-America would take care of it. Well, I don't want assumptions, because we all know what assuming does. I want honest answers, and I don't think we're getting them. I think it's something that everybody's hooked up and, oh, it's good for Waterloo, let's just put it in. I'm not for it. I agree. Solar is probably good, but not in a residential area. And Lord knows we do have a lot of residents out there. And I don't want to wait 20 years. I don't think I'm going to be around in 20 years to see those 7-foot trees go to where they're going to cover anything up. So I say that my property is going to go right down the dump. And I don't want to see it. I don't think you'd want it in your front yard to look out your bay window and look at it all day either. One of his comments was to us that it's like a reflection on water. He's not a fisherman. He doesn't know what that reflection is. It's almost blinding. You have to put your back into the sun because otherwise you're not going to see. I don't want that. I don't think you would want it in your yard. You would want it within your area. We moved out there in the hopes that we were as close to the country as we could get and still live in the city. You guys have constantly tried to get industrial out there. Why? Why pick on us? You know, from Burton to the airport is industry. Can't we leave that section from Burton to 63 so it's inviting to people coming into Waterloo and not have it just look trashed? They wanted the junkyard in there 2 years ago. We fought that. We don't want any more industry out there. I would rather look at a house across the street than another business. I know he told me, Ott told me, well, the city zoning and planning has already decided that's going to be industrial land. When did you decide that? Just a question. We can't seem to get any answers, and we're tired of it. So if you could spot some light on this, we've done all we can do in these 3 weeks to try to get as much information, and I think we've all got together and did pretty good. But I think now it's up to you and God, and we hope you guys make the right decision.
Thank you. Is there anybody else there?
Just one more thing. Whoever was running this that showed the Cedar Falls site, could you bring that back up for me? Is that too much trouble? I just want to show you what the zero impact site looks like. Let's take a look at this site and let's take a look at our proposed site.
Sorry, sir. The council cannot see what I'm showing.
So that you're looking at the same screen I am there. So the Cedar Falls site is well placed. I don't see a home within, I don't know what the scale of this is, but there's a tremendous amount of space between the backyard home of the 3 homes that are affected and the solar panel farm. If you go back to our site, that buffer, that visual buffer isn't there. This seems like an extremely well thought out site. This site seems encroaching onto the neighborhood because it's literally in their front and backyards. So to what I was saying earlier, there are other sites available just down Airline Highway over by the airport. So is this a convenience point with no regard to the individuals that live here? Because unfortunately, it is a mixed zoning of residential and commercial. Are we going to lean more to commercial and hedge the residential out? If so, please advise me and we'll work around that. But I'm investing as a homeowner right now, as a potential small farmer right now. So if the goals of the council is to move this to industrial, and I've unknowingly moved into an industrial zone, that we're going to continue along that path, I think it was said before, if we could open up the big book and let me see so that I can make personal decisions based off of the city's end goal for the next 50 years or so. After that, I probably won't be here. But if you take a look at the Cedar Falls site and then take a look at your proposed Waterloo site, they're drastically different in the visual impact and the impact of the communities. So I don't see anybody around there. That's a great site. If my site was that site, I'd be here for it. Thank you for your time.
Okay, is there any further comments from the board members?
We have a lot of opposition to this. And that's really concerning.
I have some more questions too.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Okay.
No, I mean, I've spoken before. You all take.
No, I'm good. That's all I had to say.
Pardon?
That's all I had to say. So
I didn't hear you.
that's all I had to say.
Oh,
He just said that there was a lot of opposition to it.
okay. Oh, thank you.
So what questions do you have, Jerry?
Okay, was there an environmental assessment completed? You know, I heard about migration and the different animals and all, plus this drainage issue. I know that there's got to be a stormwater plan done, but there's a lot more to managing water. So was an environmental assessment complete on this job? The second thing is
I'm
how?
sorry, is it Jerry?
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Do you
thank
mind if I address that, just so we kind of take them as they come, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
So yes, we did do an environmental assessment ourselves. We also reached out to the Iowa Department of Resource, so the IDNR. We do that for all our sites. They came back with no listed species of concern or habitat. Say from a state perspective, our environmental consultant came back from a federal perspective. There is no suitable habitat for the 4 potential species from a federal standpoint. So we did do an environmental assessment on the project. I know there was some concern about birds and impacts to birds. So one of our projects near Sioux City that just got approved, we did, again, went to the DNR, requested an assessment from them. one of the things they came back with at that site was we were within about 2 miles of a waterfowl migration. And so one of the things that they brought up for concern is what has been deemed as the lake effect. Kind of birds may construe the panels as a body of water and impact them. Their recommendation to mitigate that was to add like a silver or white trim to break up the panels. Our panels have that silver trim, so there really should be no impacts to birds or wildlife. On the fencing side of things, I know chain link was brought up. In our application, we're actually proposing, assuming it's okay with the city, a fixed ag knot fence. So it's got squares. It's a little more open, so it allows for migration of smaller animals in and through the project. So hopefully that answers your question, but happy to expand more if needed, or if you'd like, any information or the letter from Iowa DNR that states no concerns.
Mr. Ott, good, thank you. I've got some more questions, and since the chair has left the room, I will run the meeting. Help me understand again, how far away from the substation can those solar panels be so that it's efficient?
Yeah,
You mentioned something about
yeah,
that.
so great question. It's not, it's kind of, we have a whole group that looks at that. I know there was some concern about, the location and suggesting other locations such as the airport. We actually looked at the airport first and foremost. It's something we want to partner with the city and the airport on. Unfortunately, the area that we had kind of initially selected was targeted for future development, so it wasn't a good location for solar. We looked at another spot north of the airport, still on airport property, that wasn't slated for development. The system couldn't handle it. We're too far away from the substation. So unfortunately, I can't give you an exact distance. The landfill, for example, I don't know how far a relationship to another substation that would be, but that also raises other concerns. Usually they're capped. We can't penetrate the cap of the landfill. So that brings up a whole host of different issues. We'd have to go to a ballast and a fixed tilt, and that, can be troublesome. So, why, again, I'd love to be able to place this, maybe further away. Again, we felt that the area has industrial use, residential, commercial use. Again, much like Blackhawk County's site that was just approved last month. In fact, our panels, I don't know the exact distance, but scaling off on their site plan, their panels were about 50 to 70 feet away from the senior housing just north of that project. Our panels, the closest panels, would be about 170 feet to a house. And there's a road in between there and a dense vegetation buffer that we're suggesting. We understand that, the concerns on the visual aspect. Again, that's why we increased the initial height of the trees to help alleviate that concern.
Okay,
does that help?
Hold on.
Yep.
No, yeah, thank you. More, I got more.
Yeah.
Okay, help me understand if trees could be planted on the north side.
I would have to take a look. I think one of the things that we took into consideration when proposing landscaping was the proximity to adjacent houses. To the north, the project's roughly a half a mile away from the nearest house. That's a lot of corn or soybeans that's in place. I don't know what future development may come. Again, I know there was a statement that suggested I stated this was industrial use. All I said is I don't know what the city has plans for that area. I couldn't tell you if it's industrial or agriculture or commercial or residential in the future. So, could we? If that's a requirement, yes, we could do that. I don't know if that's I understand the concerns of the visual. I don't know, you know, if the monetary resources to do that are the best use of resources to minimize the impact. But you know, I'm happy to entertain that if the board thinks that that is a concern. Again, it's roughly half a mile, so we just felt like, you know, that's quite a large distance. Again, not knowing what may be developed in the future, which, you know, eventually would provide further screening. Does that
Okay,
help?
thank you. Yep.
Yes, thank you. I have some more.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair. We keep hearing about the grass and planting grass seed. Obviously, you know that Iowa is an agricultural state, and we are in dire need of pollinators. So I'm wondering if you might consider some short native grasses, not the big old tall things that, you know, run away with us, but like, you know, Canada rice, or, you know, even wildflowers or buffalo grass, stuff that grows short, but it is creates an environment for bees and butterflies and other things, so that we could increase our pollinators here on that ground.
Yeah, I think that's something we would entertain. Again, it's not something we've looked at for this site specifically. We were looking for more of a perennial grass, low growth grass, easy to maintain and establish. But, you know, I think it's something we, you know, could look into to you know, to add to the site.
Yep, conservation and, you know, helping out, you know, our land is so important to me. And the last thing I know that we've talked about already is the bond, the financial security required for the decommissioning, which the board can talk about. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
How close are these panels going to be to the road, to Burton or to Airline?
John, could you speak up? I didn't hear that.
How close are the panels themselves going to be to Burton or to West Airline?
Yeah, I believe the panels themselves are at least 50 feet away from Burton, which is the setback for this district. From Burton, I guess I don't have that measurement. It's obviously a lot greater than 50 feet. There's a greater distance. Again, which is one of the reasons, because of that separation, that extra separation to the houses to the south. You know, I think that's one of the reasons why our consultant, you know, didn't plan for more trees in that location, just because, you know, the further the distance, you know, the less impactful the site can look.
Okay.
Okay,
So, Mr. Chair, between Mid-America and Planning and Zoning that's present right now, you heard from a lot of these folks, and are you able to, I know you've addressed some of their questions, concerns, but I think there's still some floating out there that can either party respond to any of those?
Yeah. Do you mind?
Go ahead.
I'll try. I tried to. You know, I didn't take them all down, but I did take notes on a few. One of the concerns I think was fire and impacts to you know, emergency services. The components of the panel really, there's a very small amount that's combustible, so they don't lend themselves to actually adding to a fire. So if there was to be, let's say, a grass fire for whatever reason, you know, they're not self-sustaining. They don't help feed the fire. One example I found was in California. There was a 3-acre fire underneath the panels. None of the panels were damaged. Again, there's just, you know, a lot of metals, silicone, aluminum, things like that that aren't combustible, that don't lend themselves to fire. Now, if the fire department, I believe the city actually reached out to the fire department to see if they had any concerns. One of their suggestions was just keeping the trees at least, I believe it was 6 feet away, which we're well beyond on that. We're happy to work with emergency services if there is a concern from any of those departments regarding either fire or any other type of emergency services. I worked on a lot of wind farms. We do that at those projects as well, coordinating with emergency services. So, if that's something that the city of Waterloo wants to do, we're happy to do that as well.
Speaking of fire, I think someone may have had a concern about whether these would generate fires.
Yeah, they're not, so they don't produce heat. They're solar panels, they attract sunlight and convert to electricity. It's not a thermal solar site where they have mirrors or some other type of arrangement to produce heat and direct it and to warm up like salt or things like that. So that's not how this project works, I guess.
Okay.
I know there was concerns about toxicity. There's a mention about cadmium. These panels don't have cadmium. Even if they did, basically how they are built, they are encapsulated into plastic and glass and aluminum. They're designed not to break and not to leach. Even when they do break, they're not leaching, chemicals out onto the property. We would be notified, we would see it on our system, look at it and replace it. I know there was a concern about, end of life, what happens with them. There was a comment about going into landfills. Basically, and I'll read if you don't mind. In the U.S., end-of-life disposal of solar products, is governed by the Federal Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, as well as any state policies, if appropriate. Basically, what that does is it separates waste into hazardous or non-hazardous, which says, can you put it in a normal landfill, or does it have to be specially taken care of or disposed of? These are our modern panels, so multiple reports, and we're using a crystalline silicone panel. Pass this certain test. Basically, what they do is they grind up the panels. They they run some chemicals through that to see if there's any toxic components. The modern panels that we are using don't contain that, so they would be, if need be, able to go to the local landfill. Again, there's a lot of recyclable material that can be used, the aluminum, the copper, things of that. So where I've heard and seen where they still have a use after 25, 30 years. They're just not as efficient as they may have been when they were first installed. So they can be used, in different parts of the world or repurposed. So just because maybe at the end of 25, 30 years, maybe they don't produce enough energy for our purposes, they could still be repurposed or recycled.
Where are these panels produced?
Yeah, I believe these are China is where they're produced. So there was a concern. So there was a concern about coming from China, environmental. So they, and Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are certain regulations within the United States that the panels have to conform to meet our standards. So I know there was a concern of how they're manufactured and brought into the U.S., but much like a lot of other things that come in from overseas, they still need to meet strict guidance from the U.S. government or other sources.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead with your response to whatever you wrote down.
Questions about impacting well water. Again, we don't have these toxic chemicals that are, going to leach. But nonetheless, I did reach out to the DNR, the person that runs the private well system, to get his take on this. He referred me to Mike Gannon. He works with the Iowa Geological Survey, and we looked at nearby wells based on what they had in their system. They basically have a database of wells in the area. Now, if the residents are on well water, I don't have access to that information, but Advanced Heat Treat just on the corner, so right adjacent to our project, has a well. Bedrock is 60 feet below grade, and that's outside of 2 feet of, I believe it was sand. It was roughly 60 feet of clay. Basically, Mike told me, even if there was something that was to get out that was bad in the panels, again, there's not, but if there was, nothing is going to penetrate that 60 feet of clay. And for example, landfills, when they can't cap landfills or other waste sites, they usually put a couple feet of clay as a protectant. We're talking 60 feet of clay. So basically what it told me, nothing's going to penetrate that. Again, to back up, panels don't have any cadmium or any toxic components that are going to impact nearby residents. I know there was a concern about drainage, surface drainage. The site will drain much like it does currently, if not at a slower rate because of what we're planting. We'll be planting grass, which will slow down and retain some of that water. We are not exacerbating the drainage from the site. The site grading outside of a very small part where the road and the electrical components, where the equipment is, everything will remain. Basically, how this project, they're piles that are driven into the ground. So we're talking a very small area that is taken up. So there really is no impact to grading or surface runoff. Really, if anything, we would, slow any type of drainage, retain that drainage on our site. That's a lot of what I took down, but if there's, I know there's a question about if the panels were to somehow get detached and be thrown by, extreme weather like a tornado. The comment I made is, if there was a tornado to come to my community, nobody can, I can't tell where something would come, or, I can't hold my neighbor accountable because his house blew into mine. Now, if that house wasn't properly built or there's some neglect on how it was installed, then yes, they would be responsible. So it's hard to pin down liability on, if a panel were to get detached. If we improperly installed it, and the very unfortunate case where it would hurt or injure somebody, then yeah, I could see where we would be liable for that. We're not trying to shirk any responsibility or liability. I really don't think that's going to happen. But again, Mother Nature, it could be a tornado, but if it wasn't a solar project, if it was a housing complex or whatever would go in there, if it wasn't our project, that could also, a tornado could also take out a trampoline and throw it across the street. So I don't think a solar project is really any different than anything else that would go there. These are panels that are engineered and built to withstand high-speed winds or, other climatic issues.
How many of these projects does Mid-America have in play right now?
Yeah, so right now we don't have any. We do have, I believe, some panels on top of the Iowa State, at the Iowa State Fairgrounds, a small amount, but we don't have any solar projects built in operation at this point. This is something that we're getting into. We're new to it, so we did hire a EPC contractor to help us through this with placement and construction of this so that we can learn. Right now, we have a project that was approved near Sioux City not too long ago, so that will be built next year. We do have another project that we're working on in Davenport. So, there might be 3 to 4 to 5 next year that we're working on right now throughout Iowa, not just Waterloo. This is one of the spots, but at this time we have no plans to expand or use other sites in Waterloo.
But correct me if I'm wrong, does Mid-America provide service to other states?
Yes, yep, we operate in, I believe, 4 states.
Are there these types of projects in those states?
I believe there are. We don't own or operate, at least on the Mid-American side of things. I don't know if our renewables group does any of those states that we have service, but we do have a, renewables group that owns solar projects out in California or different parts. I believe that's the case. Is that correct, Adam?
To clearly address your initial question, Mid-American has service territory in other states, but we do not have solar projects in other states. We are part of Berkshire Hathaway Energy, which owns utilities all over the U.S., Canada, elsewhere, and they do have solar projects. One example was stated in Southern California. So the company as a whole does have experience. Mid-American does not own any solar projects currently, but we had the one approved in Woodbury County by near Sioux City that we will be building next year.
Okay, thank you.
And I apologize if I missed any other concerns. I'm happy to try to address those too, but those are the main ones that I took down.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, John or April or Jerry?
Yes. So I really have, you can sit, I don't have any more questions, I just have a
I appreciate
statement.
that. Thank you.
I realize that this is probably a smaller project for somebody like Mid-American Energy, but for the residents that are affected and people like me that don't know a lot about it, you feel like you're jumping in with both feet. I know that the county project that was done over, I believe is at the Pinecrest building, that's kind of different because it's county project. Where is this property right now currently privately owned and it's going to be sold to Mid-American Energy?
Yeah.
Okay, so because I have an entire page of notes that there's so many pros and cons, what are the benefits and the risks? There has lots of information been provided to us that has facts in it that are cited by a few companies. I feel like there's more questions and concerns that haven't been addressed than what have been. It feels like an us and them thing here. When it comes to renewable energy and what's best for our future, it should be a us and this is what we're gonna do. So I feel like that needs to come down to more education. Yes, I worked my 9 hours at work today, and in between every single client that I saw today, I was on the phone to the DNR and people who are experts and environmental services people. And friends who live in other states that have big solar arrays much larger than what they're proposing here. I want to be clear that I'm not against these solar arrays and renewable energy and all that sort of thing. What I'm against is these folks that are sitting out here in the audience feel like they've been blindsided. And it's because we're not educated. Yes, I got this same packet of information in the mail that the rest of the committee here got. And I don't know about you all, but I don't feel like I'm an expert after reading through all this. I just feel like we're rushing into something and perhaps having a public informational meeting where the board, the city, the residents, some third-party, unbiased people can come give us facts. That's just my 2 cents. So therefore, I will not be supporting this.
Okay.
All right, the only thing I have to say is, after listening to all the testimony, I essentially heard, I don't want this near my house. Like that's what this all it boils down to. If there are other locations that you can have this yard, why don't you have it there? What, is there a necessity to be in this location?
Anyone from Mid-America that, that could respond.
I'll kind of repeat what Matt already said, I think, but we did look at other locations in Waterloo, and they did not work out. You know, the city had plans at the airport. Someone brought that up. We actually did look at that because we agreed that would be a good location. The city had plans. We didn't. That didn't work out. We started to get farther away from this substation, and that's where we ran into problems. So it comes back to the substation. But again, I think proximity to the houses, we felt that we could be far enough away from these houses. We planned our facility that way. It's across the road. There's a good space. We've got trees lined up there as a buffer. The fence will not be chain link. Like I think there's a body shop in the area that has that same chain link fence that was referenced. We will not be putting that in. Ours is much more see-through ag knot fence with a few strands of barbed wire on top, 7 feet tall, more aesthetically pleasing. So we did consider all that. But again, I think the main point was a substation. And if we really can't build here, we ran into a lot of other obstacles looking around Waterloo that didn't make sites feasible. So, unfortunately, it'd be difficult to site another solar project in Waterloo because we did look at other areas. And we thought this site was great.
So if you're saying if this one is approved, then if this one is not approved, then there will not be a solar station in Waterloo?
Not next year, just with the timeline we're on, to be honest. We need to order materials, give contract notices and stuff like that. There's a lot of planning that went into this project. We did try to educate the neighbors. That's why we sent out the letter offering to talk to them with all their questions and concerns prior to the planning and zoning meeting that happened. Matt followed up with anybody who spoke up at that meeting and who had concerns there. Called them the next day or two, if I'm off, followed up with information trying to address all their concerns. So the education and the outreach, we attempted to do that.
Hold on.
Yep.
So did you contact me?
Whoever lived adjacent and got that same city notice. Yeah. That's who we.
So see, the problem here is people feel blindsided because we have to make decisions on things that we haven't been educated on. So therefore, I have to vote no because I don't know enough about it.
And I don't think we can contact you directly. That's ex parte communication.
Right, but you could have said to them, okay, these are the people that are making the choices. And if you're gonna have meetings with the residents, maybe we could invite them and maybe they could learn something too. So that way people don't feel blindsided when things like this come along. I'm not saying it's a bad project.
Yeah, we weren't.
I'm just saying we're not educated enough.
Yeah, we absolutely were not trying to blindside people. That's why we do proactive letters and here's our contact information. You have any questions or concerns, let us know.
And do we have any like brown sites where this sort of thing could go? I mean, we're always looking for places to repurpose this land that we currently have. And the city owns a lot of property.
20-acre sites and close to an existing substation.
Right, but those are the questions that people have. Those are the questions that I have. We don't know.
Yep, and I think part of the hearing process, and the city is great. It has a 2-step process where we did answer those questions during that first planning and zoning on top of what we did prior to that. So we answered those questions as part of that. The zoning, planning and zoning commission considered all of that information and, voted to recommend approval. So it's great the city has that 2-step education process where we were able to do that. And it spreads it out over, a weeks-long period to go through multiple hearings to get educated on this. I don't know the city's other practices with other businesses and industries if they have open houses for other things, but we weren't aware that was a requirement or a recommendation.
How long is this
If I may,
in the works?
Go ahead, John.
Just earlier this year, we were in contacts with the landowner, and earlier this year we signed that option. Once we had that land option signed, we started surveying and planning for this.
Okay.
If I may, I don't think we don't have enough information. I think we have plenty of information. There are a few questions that I think one could ask, but they've been answered by the DNR. I thought this was the information received just now from the representatives and the information in this packet are suffice to answer the questions that we need. The problem that the people have is that it's right next to their house. If this were somewhere else, I do not believe that we would have people showing up. So that means the problem at hand is how close is it to their houses? Is there visibility, and will it affect their way of life? That's where I'm hung up, because of all the other stuff, I mean, to be frank, it doesn't matter. What matters is they don't want it next to their house. And I think that's kind of what we have to come down to with the board is, what do we think about that? And are the benefits that are provided, do they override that thought process, I guess? That's what I'm thinking about.
All right, let's, I guess I would, at this point, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Turn
there's,
the camera around to the chamber.
hold on,
I'm
there's a
sorry.
gentleman that wishes to speak again, if that's allowed.
I'm sorry, I will not allow that.
Okay.
We've addressed all the issues.
Could staff turn the camera back to the chamber, please? Thank you.
Okay,
So, I'm sorry, did you ask for a motion, Brad?
I was entertaining a motion if anybody was willing to make one.
I'll make a motion. I move that we accept the request by Mid-American Energy for a special permit to allow for the construction of a 3-megawatt ground-mounted, single-access photovoltaic solar electricity generating system within the A1 Agricultural District, located north and east of 3050
Burton Avenue, Jerry.
Burton, thank you very much. Burton Avenue. Be approved for the following reasons. One, the request would not appear to have a negative impact on the neighborhood or traffic conditions in the area. Two, the request is in conformance with the future land use map and the comprehensive plan. Three, the green energy project will produce enough electricity to be able to power up 620 average Iowa homes annually. And this is subject to the following conditions. One, that the solar array project meets all applicable city codes, regulations, etc., including but not limited to parking, landscaping, traffic plan, screening, drainage, etc. That 6 to 7 foot trees are planted on the west and south property lines as shown on the site plan, with consideration to planting trees on the north side. 3, the applicant will be responsible for decommissioning the site by removing all solar panels and their appurtenances, in ensuring the site is turned back to a natural state, seeded completely vacant ground once the project is completed. To satisfy this requirement, Mid-American will provide a financial security instrument in the value of 1/2 the current replacement value at the time of decommissioning.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? I like your last wording on, especially the way you put it, Jerry. So,
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so just April voted no, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So it did pass 4-1. Okay. Thank you, everybody. So our last item is just to adjourn, I guess.
Oh,
Motion
hey,
to adjourn.
Eric, did you want to talk about next month's meeting as it relates to Thanksgiving and then perhaps Christmas as well?
This is Schrader with staff under discussion. The next meeting would be on November 24th. That is a couple of days ahead of Thanksgiving. Jerry did send an email questioning if we were going to be looking to move either the November or December meeting. Looking forward at the December one. That would be December 22nd, which is just a couple of days ahead of Christmas. I guess we'll entertain input from board members if you know you're going to have conflicts, but I guess it was our thought to leave the November meeting on the 24th. There's not a lot of good options there. The December meeting, it's obviously a little ways farther out there yet, but we could leave it, or because there's 5 Tuesdays in December, it would also be an option to move it back a week from the 22nd to the 29th, if there's thought that that would be better.
Leaving the November meeting as is and pushing the December meeting to the 29th works for me.
Yeah, that they both work. They're all via Zoom, so it's not hard to get here.
I'm fine either way.
I'm in agreement, November 24 and December 29.
April?
November 24th is going to be hard for me. I can't guarantee that I'd be able to make that meeting, even if it were a different day, just because that's one of the busiest times of the year for my business. And December 22nd meeting would be better for me if it were on the 29th.
All right.
Okay.
That's fine with me, 24 and 29.
Okay. Sounds like
All
we'll
right.
probably do plan on leaving November as is. If you can't make it, hopefully it sounds like we should have the other 4, and we'll tentatively plan on December moving from the 22nd to the 29th.
So,
Okay.
thank you. I had one other thing.
Okay.
The store on Fletcher and 63 still has up their old sign. We've talked about that before, about things not getting taken care of, and how do we follow up on that stuff, and how do we enforce the things that we
Conditions.
say are supposed to be done, but yet, if they don't, then who's going to take care of it?
This is Schrader with staff. That it is an ongoing issue. That it's basically remembering or having a system that reminds staff to kind of recheck on those things. We have had some discussion internally on that, and maybe looking at setting up a little better system. We've had before where it's just kind of written down in notes, but if you don't go back and look at them, sometimes it gets forgotten. So there was some discussion of maybe looking at what different type of system, maybe an added Outlook calendar type thing or something like that. But yeah, it is something that we recognize we need to do a little better at.
Is that something Patty could maybe I'm speaking out of term to throw something at her like that, but just to make an entry on a calendar.
Yeah. You just made an enemy, John.
I know.
Shame on you.
Just to make an entry on a calendar. That's all I'm
Until
saying.
I see Patty in the morning.
Sorry, Patty.
He's really not sorry.
But Chris will write a note to check out the sign.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I
the only
think there
reason-
was
Put it
some
on me.
time
I'll go
frame
over there
put into
tomorrow.
that approval. I don't
There
remember.
was, but the only reason I bring it up is I happened to be that way at another meeting, and I came back that way, and I'm just like, wait a minute, that sign still isn't changed, because frankly, I don't go over that way now that Fletcher's closed. So,
And that's
Well, I
one where
thought-
you can see
I
liquor
thought I saw-
through it.
yes,
Okay,
they've put some sort of like duct tape over the
We just wanna
signs, so
cover it
when
up
it's
better.
lit, you can really see it.
Replace the sign.
Yeah, it looked pretty tacky.
It is pretty tacky.
Eric's
But
getting tired
It
here.
is still against the rules, so.
It's way past his bedtime.
Motion to adjourn?
All right. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
April just did, and I seconded it.
April did it.
Oh, okay.
I'll second it.
All in favor, aye.
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 See you next
Thanks,
month.
guys.
Good, everybody.